specifically, you got to factor in volume and then, of course, who they're playing. But I think both of them kind of check that box here. I know he hasn't been shooting great. He's been taking volume, but you know what? If you're going to get between 3 and 5 here against Milwaukee's defense, I can live with that. You're asking him to shoot over his head in a small sample size. So plus money, I am with you. That's one we are both lockstep in.
All right. Did we just start up again here on YouTube? Are we there? Hello, everybody. It says that we're live. I'm looking at us. This is beautiful. Did it end again? Looks like we're there.
All right.
Yay. Hello, everybody. Smash that like button. Any locks for today? Oh, my God. We have 11 minutes. Why don't we do a rapid fire recap as everybody's getting in here? How about we list off? Ben, I know you're excited about this. Don't give you this look. 11 minutes to go. Smash the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. This is the old tip-off show. This is the 30 minutes before. This is also get set to bet or a locks before a lock. One of the two. I think Jordan Klein. As everybody starts to get back in here, as we're getting the YouTubes going, can you put that poll up? Because I would like to know what the people think. If they like locks before lock or if they like get set to bet, because that's what we're doing here. We're getting set to bet the entire NBA card just to get you guys all up to speed here. I'm going to list them off here for Ben Rasa. If you're looking at Pistons and Wizards -4, Ben gave a 3-star confidence level to the Wizards on this game. I like Thomas Bryant over on threes, as does our friends at OddsShopper, oddshopper.com. That's where you're going for a lot of the information we're talking about here. It is so easy to be able to sort by these games, find some advantageous bets, and be able to plug and play them along with your own analysis, which Ben and I add to the fray here as well. We've got the Kings and Nets. I think Ben and I are both on the Kings. This is becoming more confident play for me, up to around 4 stars as the days has gone on. So we're confident playing these guys from 0 to 5 stars. We're both heavy on the Kings tonight up against the Nets with none of those big three, and obviously James Harden being shipped off to Philly. For the Thunder at Knicks -10, we're looking at Ben betting the Knicks -10 here, or maybe kind of a stay away situation. But Julius Randle, for me, I really do like the under 41.5 points plus rebounds plus assists here. It's just a really good spot to be getting some money in good on a guy who's averaging 34.5 total of those on the season. There's a 7-point disparity, and the pace shouldn't exactly be there in a game with a total sub 210. Looking at Spurs at Bulls, we just covered that one. We talked about Keldon Johnson over for 5.5 rebounds for Ben. I like Ayo Dosunmu under 7.5 assists. He's been awesome, but pay attention to that Javonte Green news. And now we are at Blazers at Bucks. And I'm just talked about the Josh Hart. We both like the under of 1.5 threes plus 110. Looks like the prevailing number you can get at books. 4 stars for that. But we are now live for the locks before lock, the get set to bet show, whichever one everybody wants to be calling it here. I like it. I enjoy it. Raptors -3.5 at Pelicans. Ben, talk to me about this game.
Well, not just because we are going extreme rapid style for these final stretch of games, but on every card, I think one of the things we're going to preach here are definitely leans for these games, but I would strongly advocate not betting every game. That's a quick way to get murdered by the juice. And this game, I think this line is spot on. I went to OddsShopper. I looked at it. You find 3.5 across the board. I guess I lean to the Raptors just because I really don't want to back the Pels, but I am not touching this game. This would be a straight pass for me.
Yep, I put pass because the thing I want to do is not bet anything from this game. You add CJ McCollum into the fray. I'm going to wait and see kind of how these numbers exist. But for me, Toronto is one of the hardest teams to bet for props because you know what you're getting for that rotation every single game. Now, you could maybe invest with some high variance plays, whether that's Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher, try to make some of those things work. But it's so difficult for me to imagine I'm going to understand what that rotation looks like. They are one of the easiest teams to project because all 5 starters are going to play gigantic minutes. So that makes it an easy pass for props, for sports betting, getting away from that as fast as we can. Rockets at Jazz, -15, the largest spread we have here on the game. What is your game plan with this one, Ben?
Yeah, gigantic spread here. Certainly not looking to back the Houston side in any way. The Jazz have, extremely efficient offense. Should be an up-tempo game. I actually may look, and this is pretty lofty. The Jazz team total is upwards of 124, but I think in a game like this, even if it is a blowout and it's garbage time, I think they can eclipse that. So I'm going to look to go over on the Jazz in some capacity. Don't think I want to lay the 15. I will say, we all know in the NBA how quickly things can change. If the Jazz happen to start slow and you can get the spread around 9, 10, something like that live, don't mind taking a position live. I think Utah rolls, just don't want to lay 15.
I'm waiting for Rudy Gobert status, and as soon as it's going to come out, as soon as it comes out, I will smash over on 231 here. I think that everything you said there, this game is going to be played with an outrageous amount of pace. Houston, second in the NBA in pace, just behind Charlotte, third in possessions per game. Utah is first in true shooting percentage. And I know they lose Joe Ingles, who was a decent enough shooter in terms of what he does on the average. But looking at Donovan Mitchell being back on this basketball team, that adds a negative defender and a obvious plus offensive player there in Donovan Mitchell. So I really do like the over of this game. 3 stars for me, maybe leaning more towards like 2.5. Not a gigantic play, but I think it's something that I want to invest in. And as you said, live betting, definitely a thing. You want to take advantage of it. All right. We've got 2 games to go here. This is actually moving pretty quick. We got 6 minutes to go. Easy game.
Professionals.
Oh, I was going to say, this is just like we're on a PGA live before lock show, just kind of shooting the shit, doing the thing. And now we go Magic at Nuggets -11. Scotty Scheffler, by the way, how good are we at life? Oh my God.
That was nice.
3 out of 4 outrights I've hit now. This is starting to get really fun. This is a fun game. But I say that now, and I'm not going to hit one the rest of the year. But here we go. Nuggets -11 looks like the play that you prefer. How confident are you in that?
I am pretty confident, particularly at 11. The spread is taking money up to 11.5 at most books now. Just Denver at home, always strong. Orlando's a mess in every capacity. Don't really need to dig into it. There are a couple props that pique my interest. I'll pass those to you, but I'll give this a 3-star. This is of all the double-digit spreads we've talked about, the Knicks and the Jazz and those teams, I basically said I prefer to stay away of most of them. This is the one I'm most confident in up top if you want to lay a lot of points tonight. I think Denver rolls over them at home.
This is a fantastic opportunity, though, to invest in a Mo Bamba who's playing a little bit more minutes here and over of 1.5 blocks. We've added blocks, steals, 3-pointers made, so many great things that are now factored into the projections on OddsShopper. And that means more money, more opportunities to find edges. And this is a huge one, I believe. Mo Bamba, this is probably going to be a 4-star play for me. This is fringing on my favorite play of the entire day.
Okay.
Over 1.5 blocks. Now, it's plus 120. So you generally think, oh, well, it's obviously worse than a 50-50 proposition. How much do I really want to invest here? They have it projected with a win percentage. So the number of times he goes over 1.5 at 66%. So 2/3 of the time you're looking at him hitting the over of this spot. ROI of 46% on this bet. Like legitimately, if you got this bet with Mo Bamba for the rest of the season in just about any matchup, regardless of spread, if you're going to get plus 120 on over 1.5 blocks, I think he's just an auto bet at this point in time. Now, I think the minutes are going to be secure for him. Obviously, no Robin Lopez getting factored in there, but in competitive games, he's been playing close to 30 minutes a game, and he is just a stock and block monster. So Mo Bamba, somebody that is just very, very hard for me to get away at. Averages 1.9 blocks per game. Now, Hassan Whiteside out there or Rudy Gobert kind of doesn't matter to me in this spot at a 1.5 number. How do you feel about Mo Bamba in this spot?
Yeah, again, this is the beauty. I know we went into this a little and we had a wonky stream to start this show, but we were talking about this earlier. The ability to go to oddshopper.com and quickly search to identify this. With 9 games, you just don't have the time to dig in independently to every single prop for every single place. So Mo Bamba blocks appears right towards the top, and I'm going to take advantage of that with you.
And the very last prop that we're going to be going to, and it sounds like this is the one that you and I, just like the Kings, which I talked to you on too, that feels nice. This is one that we are both on together because Reggie Jackson, in the absence of Norman Powell and all the other guys that got shipped up to Portland, I had to do that for Jordan Klein just to see if he was listening. There he was.
Oh, he's
good.
listening.
That was great. There he's listening. Warriors -5.5 at Clippers. Talk to me about your favorite bet, our favorite bet to finish out the card.
Right on the screen there via OddsShopper, Reggie Jackson 3-pointers over 2.5 plus 140. The beauty of a lot of these, again, you have to understand that they're all plus money. You don't need to hit more than 50% of these because if you're coming even close to that, you're going to be making a lot of money because you're getting plus money on these. And I look at this game, I actually do lean to the Clippers as well. Give me the 5.5 if I have to take a position. If they were healthy, it would be a team I'd be buying in the futures market, but they're not. But I still think that a guy like Reggie Jackson, the volume should be there. The game stays competitive. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't back this at plus 140.
Guys, head to oddshopper.com. See what we're seeing. We have all 9 matchups. You can click on the matchups themselves. if you are in a spot where you have an evening, where an hour and a half after the Utah and Houston game locks, Denver and Orlando, and you want to get some money in good on the Clippers and Warriors, Reggie Jackson 3-pointers, Nicholas Batum seems like with his 3-pointers as well. Obviously be very careful of those minutes. He definitely had a horrendous outing there on Saturday, but looking at guys like this, having opportunities to make money in the late window to go along with your DFS action can be such a positive. So head to OddsShopper.com, check out where it is 100% free, no sign up required, no reason not to check this out here. Ben Rasa, fantastic work per usual. Any final words for the people?
No, again, you're going to be seeing a lot more of this show. We want to do it for you guys. Just a first look at the betting aspect. And I know with a lot of people in legal states now, this is an avenue that you really should explore. It's just another way to get some action and another way to make some money with us. So thanks for you steering this ship here. And then we'll pass it to the strategy show, just like old times.
Mark Curry, the Dr. Ben and Tinker show. I think not, but that was adorable. Appreciate you guys checking it out. Smash the like button for Ben and myself, and Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass here all day. He's going to be taking you guys all the way up through lock for that extra half hour that I know Josh is so much looking forward to. But guys, thank you so much. This was the introductory show here of the Locks Before Lock. I believe chat kind of doubly named that. I'm Eric Lindquist. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
now tuned in to the NBA Deeper Dive.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo. Got a nice 9-game slate here that hopefully we can bounce back from the Super Bowl. I know some of you guys had big nights, but it's never a bad time to chase if you didn't. And we got the perfect guy to help us guide us through this slate. Adam, ship my money, Scherer. Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Had a good basketball day yesterday. Didn't have a great football day, but excited to get back to basketball. And I think that this show should be a lot different than this morning because we've had a lot of stuff change. So always enjoyable when I'm not saying the same exact things twice.
Definitely, yeah. It's always crazy when you do a show and then like Giannis Antetokounmpo is out all of a sudden. So we got some big news to discuss today. Plus, a lot of guys kind of finding their footing on new teams after a trade deadline. So that's really interesting stuff to try to break down. Make sure that you don't get any bombs in your lineup. So, guys, before we get going on the game-by-game breakdown, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, that'll help us keep up with all our shows. And make sure to check out our free premium tools and data on the site. Today, that's the NBA main slate ownership projections and NHL top stacks. Plus, we got a podcast giveaway, so make sure to check us out on podcasts. First game, we got Detroit at Washington. Now, Detroit, much to everyone's surprise, they didn't trade Jeremy Grant. So what do you think about that? And then the trade they did make, they got Marvin Bagley. They got rid of Trey Lyles. So how do you see that affecting the Pistons?
Yeah, I was surprised that they kept Grant. No offense to your favorite team, but maybe it was just a case of like Grant has said he wants to be there, and it's pretty difficult to find guys that do. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know, but I was pretty surprised that they didn't. Bringing in Bagley, I'm assuming for now, and we had, obviously we'll find out more based on how this game plays out. But I'm assuming for now that he, at least to start, takes the Trey Lyles role where he's essentially just backing up one of Stewart or Grant, and then Olynyk's backing up the other one. Maybe if he happens to play well or something changes, he gets more minutes going forward. But for now, I'm just kind of expecting him to play that like 18-minute backup role.
Yeah, that actually is pretty interesting because he's only 3,300, so he's not a bad permanent guy, and the team did go after him. Like this trade was specifically to get him, so. They do like the minutes do seem a little bit tricky to find between Olynyk and Stewart. So, do you think Bagley is a DFS sleeper tonight?
I think he's decent. I liked him a lot more this morning than I do now, just because we've gotten so much other stuff that's opened up between having some cheap guys on Oklahoma City, having a lot on Milwaukee that we can go to. So I don't think he's quite as easy to get to. The thing that I still struggle with is just that Isaiah Stewart's been playing a lot of minutes lately, and that makes sense for Detroit. I mean, it makes sense for them to play their young guys and try and develop them. So when you think about the path to enough minutes for Bagley to really be a good play tonight, unless they're just going to like cut Kelly Olynyk and give Bagley minutes where he's backing up Stewart and backing up Grant, it's just hard for me to find enough minutes to really be confident without, Grant foul trouble or Stewart foul trouble, because like if Stewart's going to play 30 minutes and Grant's going to play 30 minutes, that gives you 36 minutes behind them. But if Olynyk's going to take 16 to 18 of those, then you're stuck with like 18 to 20 for Bagley. So that's kind of my concern, is unless they're cutting Olynyk even more than they already have, I just don't think they're going to cut Jeremy Grant or Isaiah Stewart's minutes from Marvin Bagley, at least right out of the gate. Yeah,
that definitely is a concern. That's a lot more smart than my idea of just putting him in the lineup and crossing your fingers. So, I think one guy in the Pistons that's kind of underpriced is Grant, only 6,300. He missed most of the season, but he's back playing his normal minutes. So, is that going to be someone you're looking at tonight?
Yeah, I think so. 6,300 is just a pretty fair price tag. The matchup against Washington's not bad. The only concern that I have with Grant is, I obviously just said I don't think they're going to like cut his minutes for Bagley, but they have sort of cut his minutes just from where he was earlier in the year. Like, I don't think they're going to cut them any further, but at the beginning of the year, you were getting 36, 37 minutes in competitive games from Grant. Now you're getting like 30 to 32. Last game he played about 15 in the first half. And it's kind of like the inverse also. Like, I don't think that they're going to only play Marvin Bagley 12 minutes and play Grant 36. So that does, kind of concern me, but he is pretty fairly priced. He is a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. So I do think that at pretty low ownership, there is some appeal there. But, I am mildly concerned just because I don't feel super confident he's getting more than like 30 to 32 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Now the point guards for the Pistons, Joseph and Hayes. I think Joseph is kind of interesting. His minutes have been pretty solid with Hayes moving to the bench, but I feel like this game not the most exciting for fantasy purposes. Any love for other Pistons?
Not really. It kind of, as a team, they just look like a lot of guys that are decent, but nothing that really stands out. I'm certainly not going to talk anyone off of a $7,400 Cade Cunningham, but he also doesn't stand out as like a top option for me. Same can be said for Sadiq Bey. I mentioned it before, Isaiah Stewart's been playing more minutes recently. I think that barring foul trouble, it's likely he gets around 30 here, but there's plenty of other centers that you can get to. I still think he's pretty appropriately priced. So I don't really see anything that stands out. I think I probably get to Jeremy Grant the most out of the main pieces, and then, take some shots at $3,300 Bagley just because he's cheap. But yeah, there's just nothing that really stands out to me here.
On the Washington side, they made some interesting moves by getting rid of Spencer Dinwiddie, and then Bradley Beal is out for the season. So they really have a lack of playmaking that those two being gone has created. They did go and get Ish Smith from Charlotte, so he's in the rotation as the backup point guard, at least in the last game. Although there is some thought that maybe he could become the starter at some point. So without Spencer Dinwiddie, who do you see benefiting most from that?
Yeah, I think Neto and Smith are the obvious answers just because they are going to get the de facto point guard minutes. I wouldn't be surprised at all if at some point Smith is starting. Right now, I think it's likely that you're getting 26 to 28 minutes from whoever starts, 20 to 22 from whoever doesn't. But that does create an interesting spot in tournaments because we know, and rightfully so, people are going to go pretty heavily to whoever's starting, and they're typically not going to pay much attention to the backup. If we continue to see Neto in the starting lineup, he's 4,400 projected for 11% ownership. Smith at 3,900 is projected for 2% ownership. And the reason I think Smith would be really interesting in that situation is if the way I see it playing out is that you would get Neto starting the first half, closing the first half, starting the second half. I think there's a good chance that who closes that game depends on how Ish Smith's second half rotation is going. If he's playing really well, you could very easily see him stay out there and close the game. If he's not, then he doesn't. But if you're going to get someone like that at 3,900 and 2% ownership that conceivably, if he's playing well, could get 24 minutes or so, I do have interest there in tournaments because it's not like he's a bad point per minute guy at all.
Agreed. Ish Smith is somewhat intriguing. One of the guys that's popping out from a value standpoint is Denny Avdia. They do have a thin front court with Montrezl Harrell being shipped out. So Thomas Bryant, he's continuing to get the starts, but hasn't really seen any big minutes recently. And then Anthony Gill now is the backup center because Gafford is out temporarily. So the centers are kind of interesting. What else are you seeing on the Wizards?
I think that among the cheap guys, for the most part, they just all look pretty neutral to me. They're all picking up some ownership. I think that they all deserve it. I'm expecting 22 minutes apiece for Bryant and Rui. Avdia probably plays around 28, and he is kind of nice because he's not a high usage guy, but he rebounds well enough. He gets some assists. He can kind of just do a little bit of everything while he's out there. So on the one hand, when you talk about more expensive players like that, it's kind of scary because you're not talking about a high usage guy. But when you're talking about cheap guys that can get there through rebounding or assists or some scoring, it does make Avdia pretty appealing to me. And then one thing that I think is really interesting, Kyle Kuzma actually, since they made the Dinwiddie trade in those two games, he actually leads the team in potential assists by a wide margin with 14.5 per game. So we already know that Kuzma can take over as a scorer. We know he rebounds really well, but we've seen an uptick in his assist numbers as well. At 8,600, I'm still very interested in him just as someone that I think is likely to lead the team in minutes, is likely to lead the team in usage, and could conceivably lead them in rebounding and assists potentially as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think that Kuzma over the season, his His assist rate has been about 14.5%. However, over the last 15 games, is 18.5, and the last 5 is 24. So there is a serious trend of his assists going up. So that's a good point. All right, let's move on to the next game. We got Sacramento or Brooklyn. This one is one of the more puzzling games for me to parse out because you have so many moving parts today for Sacramento. They haven't had Jeremy Lamb and Dante DiVincenzo in the lineup at the same time in the last 2 games. So that's kind of creating a spot where if both of those guys play, then someone else might be kind of out of the rotation. And it's really tough to figure out what's going to happen here. But I noticed that the Mo Harkless props are the unders are kind of looking good. I'm kind of wondering if Harkless, there's a good chance that he's the one that gets pinched out because he has gotten DNP CDs a lot of the year.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I still don't know exactly what the Kings are doing. I have my guesses at what they would do, but at the same time, I would have never guessed that they would still be playing Mo Harkless 30 minutes. Even in the last game, Lamb was out, but I just wouldn't have thought that they were doing that. So my best guess is if Lamb is available and in the rotation, that they cut some minutes from Justin Holiday and from Mo Harkless. But I still think it's likely you would just end up getting 10 to 12 minutes from Lamb. But that's basically just somewhat educated guessing. We haven't, like you said, we haven't seen the game where DiVincenzo and Lamb are both in. Lamb played a bunch in the first game with the team. They were more shorthanded than they are now. So my assumption is just that he would kind of be a 10 to 12 minute guy, but it doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah, I think that with all this in mind, it does look like it's hard to get to the Kings tonight in DFS. Fox and Sabonis have a high enough projection that they're worth taking a few stabs on, but there's nothing here that's really compelling from a fantasy standpoint. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm pretty much agree with that. I do think that from a value standpoint, if you want to throw a dart at DiVincenzo, it's kind of similar to the Marvin Bagley play, I think. But Sabonis is the guy that stands out the most to me here. He's just continued to produce at a high rate since coming over to this team. The one negative for him so far is that he has been playing around 34 minutes in his first couple of games, as opposed to when he was in Indiana playing 37, 38. But we've seen very solid playmaking from him. We still have seen, a mid-20s usage rate. So I think Sabonis looks pretty good. I think Fox looks fine. We haven't seen any sort of real drop-off in his rates, which is good. But yeah, it's a team where right now, because my assumption is that they're not going to just boot Harkless from the rotation, it makes it really tough to get to, I think, anything outside of Sabonis and Fox.
Agreed. Now on the Brooklyn side, Kyrie's out for this one. Ben Simmons hasn't joined the team yet, so there's a lot of value here. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond are poised to make their debuts for the Nets tonight, so they're kind of 2 names that are really standing out. Seth Curry, on this team without Irving, Durant, or Harden, he may be one of the guys that is more able to handle the ball in his hands. So he's coming up as a very good value. And then Andre Drummond is a big question mark for me because the centers last game were Blake Griffin and Day'Ron Sharpe. Now you have Claxton and LaMarcus Aldridge coming off injury and Drummond joining the team. So there's 5 guys that play center. And it's really tough to know how much everyone's going to play, but I'd like to say Andre Drummond is the best of them. Maybe Aldridge is having a good year, but Drummond, he's kind of known as a guy that puts up stats and doesn't help you win, though. So what do you think the Nets are thinking with Andre Drummond on the team now?
Yeah, I mean, the best guess I can make is that Drummond starts. I still the minutes could still be really volatile in that situation because like you said, you have so many potential centers. They could say, okay, 20 minutes for Drummond, 16 for Aldridge, 12 for Claxton. I don't think that's super likely. And one reason is that right now, without Irving and without Durant, and to a lesser extent without Simmons, they need offense and they also need some playmaking. And while you're not going to have Drummond running point, he is a capable passer for a big. And he can also score. He can get it done offensively. Whereas when you talk about somebody like Claxton, he's more of hanging out around the rim, catching lobs, scoring. He's not doing a whole lot to create or to get, to generate a whole lot of offense on his own. And we have seen him DNP at times this year too. So my guess is that Drummond starts, Aldridge backs him up. They split 48 minutes, probably 24-24, maybe 26-22, something like that. If that's the case, I love Drummond. Like Aldridge would look okay, but I would absolutely love Drummond at 5,500. He's around a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. There's nobody here that's going to be like taking the ball away from him. Cam Thomas isn't a really big proponent of passing, but other than that, I don't think Curry or Mills are going to like really be cutting into what Andre Drummond wants to do offensively. So assuming he starts, I think he looks great. If they start like Claxton, I kind of have no idea what the hell to do, because that would just kind of be a bad sign for like everybody. I think if they started Aldridge, then I would assume you're getting like 26 minutes for Aldridge, 22 for Drummond or something. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Similarly, if Griffin starts, I probably just get away from everybody, all of the centers, because that would be kind of like Claxton, where it's just like I wasn't expecting that, and I don't think it's good for anybody.
Yeah, Aldridge hasn't played in a few weeks, so I'm kind of thinking maybe they'll ease him in. We've seen that a few times this season. So I think this is all going to come down to who starts as center. If Drummond does start, I agree. He's underpriced. So everyone's thinking he's going to play half the game right now, about 24 minutes. But that could be a lot lower or a lot higher. So that's when the ownership comes into play. This is just a spot that there's a lot of volatility. So I think that's good in GPPs. But the guy that really stands out as the best play objectively is Patty Mills. He should have to handle the ball a ton without Irving and Harden. And he's only 4,800. He should get a lot of minutes. So I'm finding it hard to avoid Patty Mills. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I agree with that. He just looks really good at that price tag. He should play a lot, like you said. And he's someone that obviously he gets an elevated usage rate without Harden, Irving, and Durant. He's played 216 minutes without those guys this year. He has a 25% usage rate. He's averaged 0.91 DraftKings points per minute. But what also stands out is that he only has a 44.8% true shooting percentage. And obviously, that's not good. Like, you're not looking at it as a positive. But from a DFS standpoint, I do kind of think of it as a positive, at least in terms of floor, because if you can shoot 44% and still average 0.9 fantasy points per minute, it's kind of hard for you to fail if you're playing like 32 minutes or 34 minutes at this price. And obviously you're going to have a bunch of games where he shoots at an above average rate and just completely destroys the salary. The one thing I would mention is that right now we have Mills projected for 34% ownership. We have Curry, who's $600 more, projected for about half of that. And we have Cameron Thomas, who is $900 more, projected at 8%. I think Mills is the top option of the three, just given the salary. But Cameron Thomas has a 28.6% usage rate without those guys on the floor. He's averaged 0.97 DraftKings points per minute. I like him in tournaments, and I also like getting to Seth Curry in tournaments as well. I agree with what you said earlier that he's likely to play a bigger role as a playmaker, and then obviously they need his outside shooting as well. So I like all three of Mills, Curry, Thomas. I think that the projected ownership has it right in terms of like chances of success, but I don't necessarily think there should be like a 5-to-1 gap between Mills and Thomas, for example.
Yeah, shout out to Jimmy and Jam in chat. He says Drummond and Blake possibly playing together. It's hard to ignore that they played on the Pistons together, so they already have that chemistry. So maybe we see some Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond lineups. But anyway, let's move on. So guys, of course, we have a lot of great tools behind the paywall at Awesemo. So you can get the Awesemo weekly platinum pass for $29.95. I can see all the projections, ownership, boom bust, line builder, Discord, and that's for every sport. But if you just play NBA DFS, we have packages for just NBA. They're a lot more budget, and our express package is only $4.95 a week. And you can add on FC to these packages to grind out some lineups. Just a lot of great tools to add to your war chest here to build stronger lineups. So Awesemo do what Nintendo don't. All right. Oklahoma City at New York. So Oklahoma City, we have Lou Dort out. So that's going to open up some minutes at wing. And it looks like Ty Jerome could be the guy that steps into those minutes. So he's kind of popping at 3,200. How are you handling Ty Jerome today?
So assuming he starts, I think he looks like a pretty good value. I think he would play 26 to 28 minutes. One thing to keep in mind is that his production, even if you take like Gilgeous Alexander off the floor and take Dort off the floor, with Giddey on, Jerome does see a decrease in usage rate. That's still to be expected. And obviously the bulk of the assists are going to Giddey as well. But at 3,200, he still just looks like a very good point per dollar value. The matchup isn't particularly appealing. The Knicks play at a slow pace. They're good defensively, all of that. But 3,200 is 3,200. It's just, I know we talk about it a lot, but even like in terms of value, when you can get somebody at 3K or 3,200, it's just like drastically different than even 4K or 4,200 in terms of what else it's going to open up for you in your lineup.
Definitely, yeah. And Ty Jerome is not a fantasy slouch, so
Right.
if he does get the start, that's going to be hard to fade. There are some plays kind of on par with him tonight, so I notice there's like a trio of guys that are all pretty high owned and similar chances in the boom bust tool. I don't know if you can have all three, but Jerome stands out as one of the best. Now, the rest of the team, Trey Mann, should potentially see some more minutes as well, getting the start, but having fewer wings to contend with. And then the center spot with Favors and Roby, like this is starting to be a thin front court, which is strange, but I'm not really seeing much here besides Jerome. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot else either that I feel confident in. Like Josh Giddey did play 32 minutes last game, but they had said they wanted to keep him around 30. And it's not like his price tag is really adjusted yet. Baisley's been playing really well, but his salary has completely adjusted for that, so it's tough to get there. To me, Trey Mann looks pretty similar to a lot of the guys on the Wizards that are in that price range. So I do think that's just a price range in general where like from a roster construction standpoint, you're going to be getting to it, but there's not really anything that stands out as far as like this is the clear top guy between say like Mann, Neto, Avdia, Kispert, all these guys that you can get to that are likely to play 30 to 32 minutes or somewhere around there and produce at similar rates. Kenrich Williams kind of in that conversation as well at 4,500. I do have trouble really trusting a lot of this team outside of like the cheapest piece like Jerome because they are getting back to we'd sort of seen the stretch where like they were thinned out and they were playing a little bit tighter rotation, but now you have Aaron Wiggins back, you have Roby, I assume in the rotation, you have Favors back. Teo Maledon has typically been playing. They gave Lindy Waters a few minutes last game. Pogaszewski is still up, so it is a situation where I have a hard time really giving any of these value guys more than like 26 to 28 minutes, with the exception of like Trey Mann, who probably plays 30 to 32.
On the New York side, so we have Mitchell Robinson and Noel questionable. A little bit strange, but besides that, there's RJ Barrett out. So the guy that everyone's on is Quentin Grimes. And that's because over the last 2 games, he's really seen a ton of minutes. And the first of those two, he played 32, and then the second, he played 36, or 37. So if he continues playing anywhere close to those, he's massively underpriced at 3K. But as far as the season, he's kind of been behind some of the guys like Emmanuel Quickley in the rotation. So I'm a little bit surprised he's getting this many minutes recently, but 2 games in a row is pretty tough to argue with.
Yeah, I absolutely hate the ownership on him right now, though. I think he's a very good point per dollar play, assuming he starts. Like he's 3K, he's played 31 and 36 minutes, like you said. I just have a couple of concerns at this ownership level. Like he's 43%. I think like Ty Jerome was like 16. So I even mentioned, I kind of had concerns about Ty Jerome's per minute production playing with Giddey, but still he shouldn't be like, 1/3 the ownership of Grimes. And one issue is that Grimes just isn't that good of a point per minute guy. He's averaged around 0.7 fantasy points per minute this season. So if you give him, if he does get mid 30s, he's still going to be a good point per dollar option, but it's difficult for him to score enough raw points that like you can't make it up elsewhere. And I do think there is still a really low floor here, because like you said, he has played a lot of minutes the last 2 games, but we've seen all season long that Tibbs just kind of will go with the flow with who's playing well in his closing lineup. And just because Quickly's played 16 and 10 minutes the last 2 games doesn't mean that Quickly can't potentially be in the closing lineup over Grimes, especially if Quickly's playing well. And then also when you talk about this OKC team, like Quickly is more likely to be out there if the Knicks are looking for points, and Grimes is more likely to be out there for defensive reasons. There's not really anybody on OKC unless you want to talk, I guess, give Giddey some credit, but there's nobody really that you're pointing to on OKC and saying like, it's really likely that down the stretch, they want Grimes on the floor defending this guy. So I just think that, on average, you're still going to get 30 plus minutes from Grimes, and that's why he is a good play. But I just think it's important to keep in mind, especially at this ownership level, that we are talking about 2 games, and we are talking about a coach in Tibbs that has had very volatile closing rotations all season long. So I don't think that you should feel super confident that Quickly doesn't cut into his minutes, just because it hasn't happened in the last couple of games.
Yeah, that's it's going to be tough to both fade him at 3K, but it does seem like there's merit. I do feel like some more plays have opened up that I feel a little bit more confident in. So maybe I'll bump down his projection a tiny bit, but still a very positive value provided he does continue to start. All right. Let's go to Portland and Milwaukee. Portland. Okay, so they got Josh Hart, traded away CJ McCollum and Robert Covington. For some reason, Justice Winslow has been playing monster minutes in the last few games, which is something I didn't expect would happen this season. Josh Hart, he's played 1 game with the Blazers so far, and he got pretty good minutes with 36. So I think the prices have gone up on these Blazers quite a bit. Nurkic is 8,900, Simons is 8K. So any opportunity that was there, it looks like maybe has kind of closed. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it becomes pretty tough to get to this team. Like, I think you still have ceilings on guys like Simons and Nurkic, and even Hart, who played 36 minutes last game. And like you said, Winslow's playing a lot. But there's just, I think they're pretty much correctly priced. All 4 of those guys just look pretty much like neutral plays to me, and they are certainly risky at that price points. Like Simons at 7,900, there's just not a lot of margin for error there, because there's going to be guys at that price point that do really well, especially with Giannis not expected to play on the other side of this game. Even just looking at like a Jrue Holiday or a Chris Middleton at the same price point, they're just going to look markedly better than Simons. Nurkic's salary has gone up, so I don't really see much here outside of like in 150 max. You probably get to these guys a little bit just to round out lineups with high outside, low owned plays, but I don't really see any of these guys showing up in a lot of my lineups.
Yeah, it's tough too because if more guys are out, they're kind of already capped out at the minutes. So let's go to Milwaukee. There's certainly some value on Milwaukee with Giannis out. The guy that everyone's kind of eyeing today is Jordan Nwora. Now, I feel like this is a little bit of a guess that he does get the start. So first of all, how do you feel about the potential that Nwora starts, or do you think it'll be someone kind of like a troll starter, like an Assis, or this could go anyway, basically?
Yeah, Nwora's my guess, but I agree with you. It's a guess. He's started. Nwora has made starts when Middleton's been out. And Connaughton typically is the one that steps into the starting lineup. Like Connaughton's the first one normally that'll step into the starting lineup, and then Nwora's kind of been like behind him. And with Giannis out and Connaughton out, I think it's likely that they go with Nwora. It's also not like Portland has some, massive front court. They're starting Justice Winslow at the 4. So I don't think that for matchup reasons they need to go big or anything. You certainly could see them just say like, hey, welcome to the team, Ibaka, go get in the starting lineup. You could see them go Thanasis. You could see them go Matthews. Like you said, they could definitely go a bunch of different ways. But my guess right now is that Nwora starts.
So I think how I'm going to approach this is pencil in Nwora. If Nwora doesn't start, I feel like the ownership's going to be way, way too high on a very speculative play. So just swap to a late game and try to figure out something there. Is that your plan?
Yeah. Yeah. If he starts, like we have him projected for 30% ownership, I would much, much, much rather play 30% on Nwora than 40% on Grimes. And if he doesn't start, he's still playable because I think he's getting minutes one way or the other. But I agree with you that if he doesn't start, it's likely that he's just a little bit overowned because people are expecting him to start. But yeah, my plan is to assume that he starts, and then if I have to start swapping around to get away from it, I'll figure it out.
Jrue Holiday is someone that's really popping in our projections today because with Giannis out, like he's going to assume a lot more of the assists and usage. So at 7,800, he's looking like a pretty great play, and he's our number one boom player on Yahoo at $31. So pretty much a lock on Yahoo, I would say. How in general do you feel about Jrue Holiday today?
I love Holiday here. 14 games since the start of last season without Giannis and with Middleton active. 1.3 DraftKings points per minute, 27% usage rate, 35% assist percentage. He should play a lot. The matchup is good. The salary is good. He's going to be popular. We have him at 38.5%, but I don't really see any way around that. I think he's like a 9K plus player when Giannis is out.
Yeah, I think that he's a great option. And then the rest of the squad, I think Chris Middleton's always interesting, although price is high, and Portis. One guy that's new to the team is Serge Ibaka, so everyone's kind of puzzling over how he fits in here. But do you have any lean? Do you think he just backs up Portis, or does he get some run at power forwards as well?
So my thought this morning was that he would probably just take like the Greg Monroe minutes and back up Portis. Now with Giannis out, I think Monroe backs up Portis and Ibaka backs up, plays 18, 20 minutes, something like that. But again, this is a guess because they could just play him a bunch if they wanted to. I obviously just have no real idea what they're going to do there. So I have him, I'm guessing like 18 to 20 minutes. But it's definitely a spot. Like if he were to start, I think you at least bump him to like 24, and he would start to look decent at 4K.
Definitely. So I think that it's going to be tough because all the Bucks look pretty solid, but I'm probably going to limit it to maybe Wara, maybe 3 because Holiday is such a good play and Wara is as well if he starts. So 3 for you, or are you going with 2?
Yeah, I think it's 3 because Wara at 3K like doesn't have to get you 40 fantasy points or anything like that. And then like I have no issue at all having 2 of Middleton, Jrue, or Portis along with Wara.
Nice. Spurs Bulls. Spurs. So they got rid of Derek White. Now they have they got Josh Richardson and that Tomas Satoransky. They didn't really get a ton from the trade deadline, but Derek White being gone is pretty significant. Devin Vassell has been seeing the starts, so he's kind of been getting elevated workload. Dejante Murray's projection is 53, which really shows that he's an elite fantasy player, especially with Derek White not on the team anymore. So he's 11K though. Like, damn, that I didn't picture that being his price tag. So how are you feeling about Dejante Murray?
I like him a lot. I think he deserves it. And the like Giannis being ruled out and value opening up there and Dort being ruled out and like Ty Jerome opening up, it makes it easier to get to somebody like Murray as well. He's played 784 minutes this year without White. He's averaged 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. And one thing I think that is really good to see, not only does his usage rate jump to 28.5%, his assist percentage increases to 45% without White on the floor as well. A lot of times when you take like the second offensive piece off the floor, you'll see usage go up but assist percentage go down, and it kind of balances itself out to some extent. From a DFS standpoint, that hasn't been the case at all with Murray. He just flat out across the board produces better. It's a pretty good matchup here. 116 implied total for San Antonio is really nice. You should get 35, 36 minutes from Murray. I'm not really scared off at all by this price tag.
Any other Spurs that you're looking at?
More so just kind of secondary options. You do have Josh Richardson available. I think that cuts into like the Lonnie Walker and Josh Primo minutes. It also makes Devin Vassell riskier. I think there's still a good chance that you get around 30 minutes from Vassell, but without Richardson, it was basically like you knew you were getting 30 minutes from Vassell. Now there's a little bit more volatility there, and his price tag has come up. So I think any of Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, Vassell are playable, but they don't stand out as priorities. The guy that really stands out to me here is Murray.
Nice. And then on the Bulls, okay, so Zach LaVine continues to be out as well as Ball, so that opens up a lot of playmaking. So Ayu Dosunmu, Kobe White, and DeMar DeRozan are all kind of popping. How do you feel about those guys?
Yeah, I think as a whole, Chicago looks good. DeRozan is the top guy here. He's got like a 36% usage rate without LaVine on the floor, and averages about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. Vooch also averages around 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. He's a little bit cheaper, only center eligible. Those two both look really good if you can get there. Dosunmu and White, I think, are pretty strong plays too. Just both guys are going to play a lot of minutes. Dosunmu's taken on a really big role as a playmaker recently, and obviously that gives him a lot of DFS value. Kobe White scares me in that I hate rostering guys that are somewhat popular and like in the mid range when I don't really expect them to be like a top 2 or 3 usage guy or assist guy or rebounder. But at the same time, he's likely to give you 36 plus minutes, 0.8 to 0.9 fantasy points per minute. So I think Dosunmu and White are like a tier below Vooch and DeRozan, but they're also obviously less expensive.
All right, we got a couple of super chats here. Jack, thanks for the super chat. He says, what's the most amount of money you missed out on last second in a GPP? That happened pretty hard to me earlier this season on one of those. I think that it was like a few $1,000s, Mega Millionaire for the showdown. And then, okay, so I was in first, tied with Mark Levin. I didn't love being tied to Mark Levin, but we were splitting like 600K. And then it was versus it was Rams Cardinals. And then in the last drive, they converted an onside kick, and then I went to second. So Adam, you got any good last second bad beats?
Had the top last basketball season. I had the top 3 spots in the like $15 DraftKings tournament or whatever for I think like 170 combined, and I basically just needed the Nuggets and Suns game not to go to overtime. Suns were down by 3, and Malik Beasley fouled Ricky Rubio on a half-court shot at the buzzer, and he made all 3 of his free throws to send it to overtime, and I did not win $170,000.
Oh, man, that's brutal. All right. So, Jack, let us know if that happened to you recently. And then Luis Jose Lopez, actor, he said, I'm playing Murray on FanDuel everywhere and Kuzma alongside Middleton. What is your overall center to play with these guys? So, on FanDuel center, any FanDuel centers that you recommend offhand?
Well, I mean, Jokic obviously, but if Drummond starts, I still like him at 6K. I like Portis at 6,500, although he does have power forward eligibility, so you're probably better off playing him there. If you need to save some money, we haven't talked about him yet, but Bamba at 4,800 does give you a pretty nice ceiling, I think.
The Bamba, I was gonna say he's second in our boom bust. Jokic is first, and then you got Portis without Giannis. That's good. Joe Val is really cheap today, so that's the option. So I hope that helps. All right, let's talk about Yahoo real quick. So Yahoo has been really stepping up their DFS contests this season. Today they got a 50K prize pool for their main baller contest, and they do NBA, NFL, PGA, like all of the main sports. If you haven't signed up yet on Yahoo, you can actually get a free month of Awesemo Plus at the same time. So you just have to sign up for an account using the link below, deposit and play. And then Yahoo will send us your name and we'll send you a code for the Awesemo Plus membership. So make sure to check that out. They got a special Valentine's baller tonight. So it should be a pretty fun one. And we cover Yahoo on our tools as well. All right, 4 games left. Toronto at New Orleans. Toronto is an easy team because really they just run out the same rotation pretty much every game. And on a slate that has a lot of value that isn't exciting today. Unless, are you seeing anyone on Toronto you're targeting?
Not really. Toronto is just one of those teams where like I like them in tournaments as high upside pieces at low ownership to kind of round out your lineup, because on average none of these guys look that good at their salaries. I think Van Vliet to me at 8,800 looks the best out of the team. Siakam would be second, and then Anunoby, Trent, Barnes. But that's just kind of on average. in any one game, there's a pretty good chance one of these guys steps up and has a bigger game than usual. So I do like getting to them in general when they're low owned because we know the minutes are going to be there for the starting five. But it's not so much pointing to one guy and saying like, oh, I think Van Vliet is great or I think Siakam's great. It's more so just saying I like this team as a whole. If you just have a lineup where you need a low owned guy that certainly has the potential to do really well.
Yeah, I think you can take some stabs on these guys, maybe OG and Nobi. Yesterday was all about the OGs, so maybe that'll continue into today. All right, New Orleans. So they traded Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they got CJ McCollum. And they traded Josh Hart. So CJ McCollum is a big addition to the team. It's kind of going from from playing with Dame a lot of the season to Brandon Ingram. It doesn't seem like a huge change in what we should expect here. So what are you expecting from CJ in this new atmosphere in New Orleans?
I'm expecting it to be pretty comparable to what we were getting in Portland. I will say that I like him at his ownership in tournaments because we haven't seen any sort of a real drop off or adjustment in his first couple of games in New Orleans. He's played 37 and 36 minutes. He has a 32% usage rate. He's getting assists. So I'm always concerned when someone like McCollum or Sabonis moves to a new team because it's is there going to be an acclimation period where they kind of take a step back and defer, in this case, Brandon Ingram? And that has not been the case. McCollum has just come in there gunning and playing a ton of minutes. So at 2.5% ownership on DraftKings and I think 4% on FanDuel, I am interested in getting there just from a ceiling standpoint, but he's still not someone I'm building around just because I think that it would be extremely difficult to say I'm building around CJ McCollum for $100 more than Jrue Holiday, for example.
Yeah, I agree. He's tough to prioritize. His stats have been a little bit higher in these last two games than the season averages, so there's some reason to be optimistic there. But I'm not seeing a ton on New Orleans to really target anyone you're liking.
Not really. I mean, mentioned McCollum, Joe Val kind of in that same category. He's likely to give you 32 minutes, and we know the kind of ceiling he has, but nothing that is particularly appealing.
Yeah, Joe Val on FanDuel is pretty cheap, so that's kind of interesting. And then, okay, so let's go to the next game here. We got Orlando at Denver. Orlando, no real injury news to speak of today, other than Mo Wagner continues to be out. One guy that's been kind of getting a boost in minutes recently is Mo Bamba. He's 4,700 on DraftKings and about the same on FanDuel. And the last game, he didn't play any fourth quarter minutes, so 23 kind of underrepresented his potential. But 2 games ago, he did play above 30 minutes. So I'm kind of wondering if he can get back to his season averages. He's been he's only averaged about 24 minutes a game over the last month or so. So do you see any reason why maybe he's back to his season average instead of what's happened recently?
I mean, there've been a lot of blowouts, and obviously that is a risk tonight as well. But it's one reason I really like going to him in tournaments at the cheap price tag that we have on both DraftKings and FanDuel, because there have been games that weren't blowouts that he didn't play a lot either, and that's a risk you certainly take. And then also this game being a blowout is also a risk you take. But at relatively low ownership and a cheap price tag for a guy that averages over a fantasy point per minute, I like knowing that there's at least a potential to get 28 to 30 minutes from him here.
Ooh, Malakar, he's saying he's targeting Ish coming back to Detroit. I forgot about that revenge narrative, but that's a funny one. All right,
there's not many teams in the league that isn't a revenge narrative for Ish.
That is a good point as well. We have enough data to do a research project there, but we haven't done it yet.
One other side note on that game, News God tagged me and someone else did on Twitter. Dwayne Casey was asked if he was going to ease Marvin Bagley in, and his answer was no, I'm going to throw him into the fire. I personally am not doing anything with that quote because I don't actually know what it means. I expect him to play 18 to 20 minutes. If I don't know, maybe people feel differently, I think it's worth mentioning it. But for me, I'm not reading that as he's going to go play 30 minutes. I'm reading it as he's going to go right into the role that we're going to use him in, which I expect to be the backup behind Grant.
I think it's enough to encourage you to take a couple stabs in GPPs.
Sure.
So
yeah.
He's only 3,300. And like I think Stewart, like they didn't trade for Bagley because they don't like Stewart, I don't believe. So maybe the idea is they could go big with Bagley and Stewart at some point because Stewart does have a little bit of range. So, but I don't expect that to happen today. It just takes a little bit longer to work that in. So,
oh, go ahead.
I think he's kind of a fringe play.
Right, yeah. Like I'm fine if like I don't have any issue if you want to say like instead of 18-18, it's 20 for Bagley, 16 for Olynyk or something. It's just like I still can't read that quote and be like, oh, they're gonna cut Isaiah Stewart's minutes in half and play Marvin Bagley 24 minutes or something. Like that's a pretty tough sell still, I think.
All right, Noel is out, so it looks like we might get some Knicks news here. But we're running a little bit low on time. I will mention the Cole Anthony over on blocks is plus 350, so I smashed that one. All right, Denver. Okay, so it's pretty much a full squad here. So that's leading me to just playing Jokic and not really worrying about anyone else. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's Jokic and move on as long as everybody is in. Morris and Najee are questionable. I don't really care about Najee, but if Morris is out, I think you can, like you're probably getting 48 minutes combined from Highland and Campazzo. They're both sub 4K in a good spot. So I wouldn't play them together, but if Morris is ruled out, getting to some Highland and Campazzo makes sense.
All right, let's talk some Awesemo Hall of Fame real quick. So the avatar contest, you can get a free membership of Awesemo. All you have to do is place in the top 3 of a GPP with the Awesemo avatar as your avatar on the site. So once you do, tweet your win at Awesemo HOF to get your free month. And it really encourages all of us because we like seeing the success in the community. And it can be a little bit of a time between binks. So just knowing that the process is working, that really helps. Shizzy, he tied for first in the FanDuel Millie Maker yesterday for Super Bowl for 11 grand. So congrats to Shizzy. Hippie Bull, Awesemo HOF, longtime subscriber, hit in multiple contests. Josh Laffy and Shimmy Money are the GOATs. I follow for years. Turned $19 into $1,519. So that's a pretty sick ROI. Congrats, Hippie. Ryan Rooney, he tied for first in the Yahoo Super Bowl contest for $662. That was a really nice overlay they had. So Ryan was smart jumping in that one. There was a lot of money they paid out that wasn't put in, and he claimed that 662. So congrats. AS, thank you guys. I took Hopkins because I like this swag walking out of the tunnel. Knew I had to get different. Appreciate the rest of the help though. So that's pretty. I mean, that's what we really encourage is using your own intuition plus the tools. So I think that seeing a little bit of swag that could get me interested too. I should have been watching that. And then Justin, congrats to Justin. He beat out Rinpack for first in NBA on Yahoo for a 4K takedown, and he also finished third, so he got 5K in that contest. So congrats to Justin. All right, got 8 minutes left. 2 games. Houston at Utah. Houston, you got Eric Gordon back, and the new add to the team is Dennis Schroeder, but that really doesn't seem like it's fantasy relevant at this point. So I'm not really playing that much Rockets. Maybe some Şengün because he's been getting nice minutes alongside Wood recently, and he's got that high points per minute, but no one's objectively good play in our projections on DraftKings. So what are you seeing on Houston?
Yeah, I agree with you. Şengün got power forward eligibility back. He's 4,700. If you want to take some shots at that, that's fine. But he did go back to the bench last game. He played like 20 minutes. I don't have a ton of confidence there. Like if you give him 20 to 22 minutes, he'll look okay. And there's certainly a path to a really good game if like Wood gets in foul trouble or the game blows out, which is certainly possible. But it's risky. I mean, it's the kind of guy that you want to take shots at in tournaments because he is a very good point per minute guy. But just understand that it's not going to work out all that often. The rest of the team, not super appealing to me. I mean, Gordon's pretty cheap at 4K. Jalen Green, Wood are fine, but there's just a lot of plays I like more.
All right. So yeah, I agree. On Utah, Rudy Gobert is back today. At least he's questionable, but participated in shoot around, which is usually a good sign. But he's missed the last 10 games, so I don't think he's really playable at this point. And I think it's kind of a weird zone where if he played limited minutes, maybe Whiteside would be interesting, but his price has come up a little bit. So the Jazz as well, not a team that I'm seeing a ton. What are you seeing?
Same, I agree. Like if you told me Gobert was playing full minutes, I'd be somewhat interested at 9,100, but I have a hard time thinking he's playing, 34 minutes right out of the gate. Even if he plays like 30, he could do well, but there's I think better options. And like you said, with Whiteside's salary coming up, it makes it difficult. Like even if you were to say 26 to 28 minutes for Gobert and 20 to 22 for Whiteside, it's really tough to play a $5,900 Whiteside at center for 20 to 22 minutes, even with the, per minute production he offers. So makes it pretty tough there. If you get to some Donovan Mitchell or some cheap Jordan Clarkson or whatever, that's fine. But it's not anything I'm prioritizing.
Good to hear. All right. Golden State at LA. Clippers. So Golden State, they've been starting Kuminga in Draymond Green's absence, and that's been interesting to see. But aside from that, Andre Iguodala is out. So there's not much injury news to speak of. Klay Thompson has been his limit raised 30. His price has gone up a little bit. So it's another team that these late games are kind of interesting because there's not a lot of questionables and then not a lot of guys out. So they seem like the late swap might not be as impactful tonight. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say that because I know we'll get a bunch of news at like 8 o'clock. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge deal tonight. We already got confirmation that Kuminga is starting again. So this is just a spot where it kind of seems like Utah to me, where it's a pretty good matchup for Golden State. You're not going to be upset if you get to a little bit of Curry or Wiggins or Kuminga or whatever. But like none of those guys really stand out either. I did mention Curry on FanDuel in my tournament plays video earlier at 9,700. It's really tough to feel confident in him at his price because he doesn't offer the same level of peripherals as most other players in that price range do. He doesn't rebound at anywhere near the same level, obviously, as centers, but even as like Dejante Murray, his assist numbers are fine, but nothing special. So he's pretty scoring dependent, but at the same time, people realize that and they don't play him as much, and he is still capable of being the highest scoring player on any given slate. So in tournaments, I think he's fine, but this is another team where it's more so just grabbing a player here or there where you need a low-owned, high-upside guy in lineups, but not necessarily building around any of them.
Great. Now, on the other side of this one, the Clippers, they have a lot more intriguing options. So they did trade for Norman Powell, but Norman Powell hasn't played a game yet, and he's out tonight. So it's opened up some minutes. They got rid of Eric Bledsoe, among others. So I think that Reggie Jackson may have a clearer path to bigger minutes with Bledsoe off the team. He's kind of standing out. And then Luke Kennard's questionable in this one. So if he plays, he's pretty cheap. And then Batum, Morris, and Zubats are also quite cheap. So I think there's really a lot of ways you could go in this one. What are you thinking with the Clippers?
I think it's pretty scary how good the Clippers players look because I have no real confidence in most of this rotation. I think that Reggie Jackson plays a good amount of minutes. I think he looks like a good option. He's coming off of a 40-minute game. Powell being out, Bledsoe being gone, it opens up plenty of playing time for him at 6K. I think he looks good. I think Marcus Morris looks good at 5,600. I can feel pretty confident in his playing time. He's coming off of a 36-minute game. Where I start to get concerned is, okay, so I think Zubats looks pretty good at 4,200. He played 33 minutes last game. I'm not going that high on his projection, but it's still good to have seen that happen. Even if you give him 24 to 26 minutes, he looks decent. Where I start to get concerned is like Nick Batum is 3,600. He looks like a good value if he gives you 26 to 28 minutes. He also played 20 minutes last game. Luke Kennard played 18 minutes last game. Robert Covington played 11. On the other hand, you had 35 minutes from Terrence Mann. But like, I don't think Robert Covington consistently is playing 11 minutes for this team. I don't think that Amir Coffey off the bench is consistently playing 30 minutes. I think it's just a situation where you're going to get a lot of hot hand playing time for players basically that are not named Morris or Jackson. So it makes them all risky in terms of they have low floors, but it also makes them appealing because it means that typically they're underpriced relative to the minutes they're going to get if they're playing well.
Yeah, it does seem intriguing to maybe take a shot. We just don't know who to go for. Terrence Mann, he had been coming off the bench recently, but he did start the last game. So do you have a good read on who's going to start this one?
My assumption is the same starting lineup we had last game. I think we got a report yesterday that Mann was likely to stay in the starting lineup, but I'm expecting it to be Jackson, Mann, Batum, Morris, Zubac.
Nice. One thing I'm kind of eyeing, Robert Covington is available to make his debut tonight for the Clippers. So who do you think he's pulling minutes away from?
He's played the last couple of games. He just hasn't played a lot, which is really weird. But he played 11 minutes last game. He played 10 the game before that. He played 29 against Memphis 3 games ago. A lot of that was garbage time run, but he's just another one where like by a month from now, I think he's averaging, like mid to upper 20s, but we haven't really seen that yet. So it concerns me, but I don't really know what to do with it. Like he certainly could cut into the Zubac minutes. Maybe you get 24 from Zubac, 16 from Hartenstein, and then the rest of the center minutes go to Covington. Like that's a possibility, but it doesn't have to happen. He can certainly take minutes from Batum. He could take minutes from Morris. The way I see it right now, though, is it's difficult to say he plays more than like 20 to 22, given that he's been playing like 10 to 12.
Yeah, my bad. For some reason, I missed that Covington had been in recently, but I think the Clippers have some interesting options. Zubac's been playing a lot of minutes, Terrence Mann as well. All right, guys, make sure to hit the like and subscribe, and then we got a full another hour with Josh and Greg leading you all the way up to lock. So thanks to our sponsor, Yahoo. Check them out. They got a free month for Awesemo plus Platinum, and then they also have really soft contests that you're going to do really well in. So, all right, guys, good luck tonight and stay tuned.
do that, so I don't do shit. Oh, shit, I guess I'm ready. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Monday, February 14th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Greg Ehrenberg, and we have a nice 9-game NBA slate. I think it's 9, honestly. I forget from this morning, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right. We are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy Sports, and what I need you to do right now is hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Greg, how are you?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of debate on the channel whether Josh is able to count up to 9 and where his limits go. Well, everybody who bet plus 150 on Josh being able to count up to 9, you win. Cash those tickets because there are 9 games tonight.
It was a good guess. Thank God it wasn't 10 or I would have just been able to fail. And if it goes over 10 and I got to take my shoes and socks off, it's going to be an even bigger issue. This slate feels relatively normal and easy right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say the biggest question mark for me right now, and I don't know, maybe this doesn't apply to a lot of people, is I'm really curious what the Nets starting lineup is going to look like. Because what happens with guys like Seth, like if Andre Drummond starts, that's massively impactful for this slate. I think he's the player with the widest range of outcomes that I don't know what to do with. But to me, it's really the Nets starting lineup in a positive matchup against the Kings that's probably going to have the most influence on my lineups.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The Nets lineup is kind of wild. And then one that we're not going to have any information on. I have no idea what's going on with the Clippers today or just in general as of late. And we're not going to know that kind of stuff by the time our show is over, not even by the time we hit that 7:30 mark, or at least I assume we're not. But that one is very up in the air to me. I don't know if we'll ever even know anything of value, but the amount of guys that could be good for the Clippers today is way too high.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing too is we're probably not even going to know at halftime of that game because I know the last slate, I was like, oh, Nick Batum, this is a great guy to late swap to. People aren't going to be on him. He was inserted into the lineup last second and he played 7 minutes in the first half and did nothing in those minutes, like 0 shot attempts, 0 fantasy points, 0 personal fouls. He ends up finishing that game playing 19 minutes and 2 rebounds and no other stats. But to your point about the Clippers, I don't know what the minutes are going to look like. I don't know what the rotation is going to look like. But what I do know is that there's a lot of guys that are really cheap there in a difficult matchup. And there are some that I am a little bit overweight to.
Same. I'm casting a little bit of a wide net on these Clippers guys. And it's not guys that I really want to have a ton of. But I guess we could start working our way through that just to let you know. And by you, I mean you, Greg, not the public. Although I guess the public wants to know this too. I'm just playing DraftKings tonight. So anybody that was looking for me to be aggressively chatting up FanDuel like I normally do, you're not in luck for today.
So I am playing, I'm going to be playing just on DK, but also have my FanDuel build here. So I built lineups as if I would be playing on FanDuel, and I have an idea of who I would be playing if I was entering. It's just a tough slate when it's 9 games, a lot of injury situations, to enter lineups on both sides. So generally what I do is I'll pick one to play on and whatever I think the pricing and the tournaments I prefer on, but I make builds for both of them for the purpose of the show.
All righty. Well, let's talk a little bit about the guards for today. And I'm just going to hit you with the normal question. Who's your favorite guard on today's slate? I think this one's easy.
Maybe. So, I mean, for me, the answer is Jrue Holiday. I don't know if that was the answer you were expecting or not. I don't know if you were expecting me to go down the, Quentin Grimes or the Ty Jerome path, but for me, it's Jrue Holiday. There's no, expected to be no Giannis. He's officially listed as doubtful. I generally assume that to mean that he's not going to play. But yeah, Jrue Holiday is right now one of my most overall players on the slate and my most rostered guard, whether it's FanDuel or DK. It's just too cheap of a price. And he really should be more expensive than Chris Middleton in these spots, which is not the case. So I really do like getting Jrue Holiday today. The matchup against Portland couldn't really be more ideal. And then I'm just hoping it's not a blowout.
I have no issue with that answer. Jrue Holiday is my 3rd most exposed guard, although my top 3 are all basically the exact same amount. You mentioned the other guy, Quentin Grimes, but my 3rd guy was not Ty Jerome. It is Patty Mills for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's also very reasonable. I mean, that Nets team is terrible right now. And I keep hammering home on this point is I wish a book would grow a set of balls and just post odds on the Nets to miss the playoffs this year, because We're 3 games away. If the Nets lose their next 3 games, they'll have gone over a month since they last won a basketball game. And there's recent reports, Ben Simmons, totally unknown when he's going to return. Same goes for Kevin Durant. No clue when he's going to return. Kyrie Irving, we know he only plays in road games, not home games. And the Nets have, I think it's like 4 home games in a row or something like that coming up right now. It's going to be tough for them to win games as it is now. And at a certain point, you need to win games to get into the playoffs. So I think it's pretty concerning. But as we talk about the Nets team anyway, to tie us into Patty Mills, you're looking at this team now where, Patty Mills to me looks pretty good. Seth Curry looks good. Andre Drummond could look good if he's in the starting lineup. I'm just not exactly sure what the starting unit is going to look like, but Patty Mills is one guy that I think we could pretty confidently say is going to be in there and playing a big role.
I think it's fascinating right now. Truly, truly fascinating, because you're looking for Brooklyn odds to miss the playoffs, which do not exist anywhere that I have seen. However, they are also the odds-on favorite to win the NBA title. And I'm not saying that like to disagree with you or anything like that, because obviously I think that line should just simply exist, but it is wild that the disparity is so close in both directions.
Yeah.
Because if they make the playoffs, it's like, I assume if they're healthy, they're arguably the best team in the East, and they have I don't think they should be the leader in the clubhouse to win the NBA title. That seems a little aggressive to me, but I understand wanting, I have some interest in both sides of that. I think they could win the NBA title and miss the playoffs, and neither one of those two things are crazy.
Yeah, totally agree. And my point with the Nets too is because I know people say this with me with the Lakers before the season. I told people bet the Lakers to miss the playoffs, and it was not because I thought the Lakers would not make the playoffs. I thought they were more like, it was just the odds were wrong in my opinion. And now it looks like the odds were egregiously wrong. But now I'm looking at the Nets situation, and I'm not looking to bet them at even money to miss the playoffs. That would be absurd. But I think that if there would be a line posted, books would hang it like plus 15 or plus 1600 for them to miss the playoffs. That's what I'm interested in. And at a certain point, if they don't start winning games, it becomes a concern. You get into a play-in game, and then they're a 1-game elimination playoff game against the Hawks, and maybe Kyrie Irving isn't allowed to play. Who knows if Durant or Ben Simmons are able to play at that point in time. Like, it's not hard to envision a scenario where there would just be value on betting them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, they are per 538 projected to finish 8th at 43 and 39. Would not take a lot of issue. Like, the problem is the rest of the East is pretty bad. They have the Hawks at 41 and 41, the Hornets at 41 and 41, and then the Knicks all the way down at 36 and 46, which makes it really tough to fall further than that 10 spot. They really need to keep tumbling here to do it. But even still, does the miss the playoffs bet would be the literal playoffs, not the play-in?
Yeah. So they would have to if they get to the play-in tournament, they'd have to advance past the play-in tournament to make the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, if you get into that 9-10 spot, winning 2 games is not easy. Especially, I mean, if you're lucky, you're playing 2 road games and Kyrie gets to play it. That's the interesting piece. Would they rather be 8 or 10? I'm not entirely sure. Probably 8 because it's 1 and in, but they'd certainly rather be 10 than 9.
And here's the funny thing about the Nets situation is their odds to win the championship if they advance past the play-in game is better than if they were just a top team in the East at that point, because then you get Kyrie for more games in the playoffs. So it is like a really weird situation.
Could you imagine if they get the 8 seed and we get Bucks Heat round 1? What a bloodbath. What a load of shit for the Heat, first and foremost. They should be allowed to pick whichever team they want, because that is just absolute nonsense. That's insane. There's a decent chance we get Heat Nets or Bucks Nets round 1 instead of what should arguably be the Eastern Conference final. I'm so pumped for the playoffs this year.
And then to tie this back into the Nets and all the stuff we've talked about is there's so many guys out for the Nets, which is really the overarching point here. There's a lot of potential for value. I don't know what the starting lineup is going to look like. Patty Mills, to your point before, I love him. He's the guy I feel the best about. But then Seth Curry is going to be fairly popular today. I think him and Andre Drummond to me have the most upside of any player on the Nets today. But I don't know what their minutes are going to look like. So I was kind of curious too. And just as we're talking about the Nets, I know we're on guard now, but what did you do with Seth Curry's minutes? Because he is a guard, but then Andre Drummond too, because it's all relevant.
So I gave Drummond 22. I don't know why. Mitchell Robinson, Cam Reddish, both available to play. I gave Seth Curry 33. Just seems to me like Seth Curry is just going to jump the line and play massive minutes because the Nets are running low on actual NBA players and they don't need to be playing Javon Carter. I don't even want to say like Cam Thomas because I think he's been good, but like Seth Curry is just unquestionably a better basketball player than Cam Thomas is right now. So I just assume Seth Curry just gets normal starter run. I wouldn't be surprised if he played 36. I say same way that if this is competitive, I wouldn't really be surprised if Patty Mills played 36 because if they're trying to win a game, I think they're going to start leaning on the guys that matter the most here. After that, like their center rotation, what a grab bag.
Yeah. And that's also when we talk about Drummond, there's so much upside in Drummond today, particularly if he starts. But there's also downside too, because Drummond's not particularly good as a real life player, but he's so good as a fantasy asset when he's on the court. They could start him at center. He could play 28 minutes and then we're getting, like 40 fantasy points from Andre Drummond. But just based on what you said about Seth Curry right now, I had him projected for 32 minutes. I gave him 34 just so I get a little bit more exposure to him.
Yeah, I've got 19% of him right now. That's exactly where our ownership was on the last run. I feel good there. Drummond at 12% on our last run of ownership. I've got 30. So I am out in front of that one for now. Although if he gets ruled in, I don't even know what I'll do to get a little bit more because that's clearly going to happen either at 658 or 702. If it happens at 702, I'm almost happier, although it probably won't make much of a difference. But at least going into lock, I'm going to be ahead of the field on Andre Drummond. We'll see where we end up there. And I don't know what I'll do if he's not in the starting lineup.
It's hard for me to project him for more than like 20 minutes if he's not starting. For me right now, the two centers I have the most exposure to right now, it's Jokic 1, Drummond 2. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here because we are going position by position, but
just get ahead. We're barely going to get to the centers anyway. You and I both know this, so just talk about it now.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyway, with Andre Drummond at his price point on both FanDuel and DraftKings, there is, an incredible amount of upside. Andre Drummond, 6K over on FanDuel. His DK price point is 5,500. If you give him 28 minutes in this matchup against the Kings, you're probably projecting for over 40 fantasy points. I haven't given him that many minutes, but I'm just saying it doesn't take that much for you to project Andre Drummond really well. So I do get to him well over the field. I think he's somebody who, relative to his upside, is being underrepresented in tournaments. The downside is clearly significant, but if we're talking about the tournament that I assume you and I are both playing, and a lot of the people who are listening are going to be playing on DraftKings today as well, there's the $4 tournament that pays $100,000 to first place, and it is 120,000 entries in it.
Yeah.
But we're trying to find the players that have the most upside as possible. And if we're just looking at the ceiling of Drummond, he warrants being rostered in more than 11% of lineups.
Right. He's got the biggest variance in his minutes today of probably anybody pre-lock because he could play 16 and they go 16, 16, 16 across all these other big guys. Shit, they probably even got more big guys that they could rotate through as well just to split center minutes. Or he gets named the starter and plays like 28 to 30 and all of a sudden he's very clearly the top option on the slate. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, by the way, somebody's upset. By the way, Giannis officially ruled out, so that's good to know. Somebody apparently took umbrage with me saying that Andre Drummond's not a good real-life player. Well, he is on a minimum contract, and nobody even really wanted him on that minimum contract. So
yeah, he was a backup, and now he is a backup and not a non-closing lineup player. But I actually saw that too, so I went ahead and responded from the company account.
Perfect.
Just to let them know. All right. Guards. Any guards you're taking a flyer on? Somebody low owned that you like a little bit more than the public?
Let's see. Let me sort by my current. We should do the Quentin Grimes discussion while we're on here as well, because he's obviously going to be really important to the slate. I'm about even with the field on him, and he's very safe today. I'm assuming he's going to start. He's going to play big minutes. He's just not a very strong fantasy producer for the season. He's playing about 17 minutes per game, scoring around 12 fantasy points. FanDuel and DK is also a totally different discussion. On FanDuel, there's no real need to consider Quentin Grimes because he is 5,200 on FanDuel. Not really an appealing price point to me. But on DK, where he's the flat min, I think he's fairly safe to score at a minimum, like high teens fantasy points, considering all the minutes he played last game. But there are a bunch of cheap guards that I like today, and some of them that are popular. Patty Mills, we just talked about. Ty Jerome, who I also like. Relative to ownership, probably a little bit more than Quentin Grimes. So I think Grimes is a very safe play. I do question a little bit what his upside is because I think last game is a bit of an aberration.
I have a ton. Same as Mills and Holiday. He's my third guy in the 60s. Flat 3K playing 30-something minutes. Like on DraftKings, because that's the minimum salary is 3K and not the 3,500 like FanDuel, it just becomes so difficult to get away from someone you expect to play north of 30 minutes. Now, it's the Knicks, it's Tibbs. He can play 22 minutes today, and they go to Miles McBride or something random that I'll never see coming. But for now, to me, it's just the easiest thing to do, and I'll rotate around it. If he goes for 30 today, I don't want to say that's going to be a necessity, but every lineup that I have with him continues to have an excellent chance to win.
Yeah, he's projected for 36% ownership right now. I have 40 in my current run. So that's why I look at him. I just consider him to be about a neutral play, considering the amount of exposure I have to him relative to the field. There's just other cheap guards I want to shuffle in as a pivot play. I do have some exposure to Fournier right now. I have some to Quickly. If you're asking me for a flyer I like today, because that was the question you asked, the answer is Quickly. And not somebody I feel ultra confident in, but Grimes is going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate. I think Quickly's better than Grimes. It just, you can't project him for as many fantasy points because it's not how Tom Thibodeau sees it, and how he views the rotation is much more important than me. But Quickly's 3,200 on DK. He's projected for 0.3% ownership. Nobody is getting there. Over on FanDuel right now, Quickly at 3,600 is projected for 0.1% ownership. If he comes off the bench and starts shooting the ball well, it's not crazy to envision a scenario where Quickly plays like 26 minutes and Grimes plays 20 or 22. So I think that's a really good pivot play who, once again, not like a core play for me, but in just the spirit of who's a good flyer, he's somebody I think if you get to like 5% of, it's a good contrarian play.
Luke Kennard, Amir Coffey, Cole Anthony, Justice Winslow. These are some of the guys with guard eligibility that have under 10% ownership that I'm a little bit heavier than the field on right now. Not that I feel particularly comfortable with any of those things, but to me, they're lottery tickets. Why is it that when we say, like, if we think a guy's not very good, that people assume that we're comparing them to the entire public of the entire world's basketball skill? Like,
because
do people not understand that's really hard to delineate then? If we just are like, every NBA player is great.
Yeah, you know who's really good? Dragon Bender. Dude just crushed it. You should have seen what he did in high school against the kids who are, 5'8".
Right.
Of course, we're talking about them relative to NBA players.
This
happens
obvious. Constantly. Like, well, these guys aren't good at basketball, so they're way better. They're not as good as Andre Drummond. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not what we're trying to do here. Why would I compare him to people that aren't his peers? That makes absolutely no sense.
No, it would be like, oh, you don't think Josh and I are good at basketball? Have you seen us play against 6-year-olds? We crush them. We're great against 6-year-olds.
Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, oh God, I got to be like pretty high in the entire rankings of basketball talent, just because of how many people are by default nowhere near it.
Yeah,
I'd love to know what percentile I'm in, and I'm not good.
And the other thing too is because I get obsessed with certain comments sometimes, but this guy Rowing Bears, like, who says he's not real life good? Literally every NBA team. The Cavaliers released him for he got released for nothing and nobody wanted to sign him last year. This year, nobody wanted to sign him. He ended up signing on a minimum contract. So, that's who also agrees with us is the NBA.
Yeah, I'd love for someone to look at that and be like, well, reasons they didn't. No one had cap room. Like, there's no. If he were that good, he wouldn't have been the backup center for the Sixers. He'd have been the starting center for one of the other 10 teams that needed a starting center.
The Knicks found $75 million for Evan Fournier. If somebody thought he was good, somebody would have spent some money on Andre Drummond.
Yeah, there you go. He's one of the best basketball players in the entire world. Yes, that's true. Yeah, that is a true statement, and also meaningless for this discussion.
Yeah, it's top like 250 or so. It's very good.
It is. You know what else is good? Free content. NBA ownership projections are free today. NHL top stacks are free today. And now that the NFL season is over, fist pump, by the way, there are no shows after this, at least not for today. PGA Live Before Lock sneaks up here from time to time, but we got nothing going on after this one. So Greg and I are going all the way up until 7:30. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the opening game. So no schedule, but we do have free content. Let's, do you have any other guards you want to touch on right now?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same idea. Kemba Walker is somebody else who I think is worth flyers on. He is projected for 9% ownership on DK. On FanDuel, he's projected for 8% ownership. Kemba's really cheap. We are not, and by the way, talking about washed NBA players aren't good anymore, that this would also probably get some people upset. Kemba Walker has not been good this year, but
nope, man, he's incredible. He is in the NBA.
But yeah, are you better than him, Josh? Are you better than Kemba Walker?
I mean, at this rate, I'm starting to think yes.
Now, with that, we're not that far removed from Kemba Walker being an ultra chalk play that everybody wanted to roster. That was what, a month ago, 6 weeks ago or something, where everybody was on Kemba Walker. I still think there's upside there. And once again, the Knicks are shorthanded. RJ Barrett is out today. Kemba Walker is going to play minutes. I think there is some upside there. He's still going to be starting for the Knicks. He played 26 minutes last game. That's the most he's played in a while. At his price point, he's somebody else that I think is a good GPP play. And if you're looking for ways that Quentin Grimes might not fail, that might not succeed, or he might fail, in lineups that don't have Quentin Grimes, I think Kemba Walker is somebody else that makes sense as a low-owned play.
God, that's scary. I get what you're saying. Like, one of these days he might make a bucket. 4,300 for Kemba is just truly insane.
He kind of did it last game. He played 26 minutes last game. He scored 29 fantasy points. I think it's kind of weird he's not picking up any ownership.
I think people are just terrified that he's just going to die out on the floor.
I mean, if he does that,
he moves so poorly now. It's sad to see.
You know what would happen though if he died on the basketball court? We could both claim with confidence that we're better at basketball than him. Like, we would crush him in a game of one-on-one after he perishes, right?
You would think. As long as you don't like dribble it off your foot or something. Depends on
what could Chat say to us.
I don't know, nothing. But Chat's gonna have a field day with that one. Let's switch to the forwards. Who is your favorite forward today? And please don't tell me that it's Patty Mills, because I don't care what his position is. He's not a forward.
It is Jordan Nwora. So the situation for the Bucks now, and also, I don't know if you saw, but we also got an update that that Giannis is not expected to play again until after the All-Star break. So we'll see what that means with his All-Star availability. But Jordan Nwora is somebody we've seen play increased minutes and is a good fantasy producer when he's out on the court. Given his price point today, really cheap. He's the min salary over on both DK and FanDuel. Another guy who I'm not totally sure what his minutes are going to be, but he's such a good fantasy producer when he's on the court, and he's so cheap that I really do like getting to him. And somebody else I think should be a little bit more popular. Right now we have Nwora projected for sub 30% ownership on FanDuel. On DK, he's projected for just over 30% ownership. I actually have him projected a little bit higher than Quentin Grimes, mostly just because of his per minute rates. Yeah. And the other thing that could happen too with Nwora is, let's say the Bucks pull out the Blazers. Fairly likely scenario, considering the Blazers are terrible and what they did at the All-Star break to just kind of ship away everybody. Jordan Nwora probably plays in garbage time in that situation too. So Nwora is another value play I really like getting to.
He is my third most exposed forward behind noted small forward Patty Mills and Chris Middleton, who I don't understand the 14% ownership that we have on him on DraftKings. Look, I get it. 8,400 is a pretty healthy price tag for Chris Middleton. It's less like it's not all that crazy to me when Giannis isn't playing. So I have a lot of Middleton at 8,400. I have a lot of Jrue, and I tend to get a lot of these guys when they play without Giannis. So I'm still doing that. If he really is 14% owned, I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I no issues there. And once this is another slate, 9-game stars and scrubs. Is that what most of your lineups are as well? With the exception of guys like Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday, who are in the mid range, it's a lot of cheap guys and then paying up for stars where you can. Is that kind of what your lineups are looking like? I
assume so, given that I have so much Grimes and so much Nwora and Luke Kennard as a value play, Patty Mills at 4,800. By default, I think that I'm just paying up pretty aggressively everywhere else.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now with my lineups. Just got Derek Jones Jr. available to play. That was expected.
Yeah, and we got Javonte Green in. I don't know if we said that before, but I don't know if that matters, but he's in. You know what matters? The fact that we have 3,300 people in here and only 500 likes. I'm going to lay that at the feet of the boss man, Alex Baker. We should have a lot more. And in the interest of being nice to my fellow workers, we're going to give Alex some credit, even if we get them here. We won't just take all the credit for the likes that show up on Live Before Lock. Who else stands out for you at forward? Anybody that you're not getting to? Do you see any bad chalk out there?
I mean, I hate to do this because I've been on the wrong side of him quite a bit this year. And I've already taken a mea culpa and said I was wrong about Kyle Kuzma. He is much better than I've given him credit for most of the season. Now, he is projected for over 20% ownership at 8,600 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel right now, Kuzma is projected for 42% ownership at 7,700. The 7,700 price tag is definitely a little bit too cheap. He doesn't warrant being in 44% of lineups, though, in my opinion. And over on DK, at the salary he's at, like, are we really at a point where we're going to say that Kyle Kuzma should be rostered, comparably to guys like Julius Randle at the same price point, or that he's going to be more popular than Chris Middleton at a more expensive salary? People have the option to roster Chris Middleton or Kyle Kuzma today, with Kuzma being slightly more expensive, and Kuzma has like 50% more ownership. That just shouldn't be the case, in my opinion. I project Kuzma fairly well. I'm projecting for over 40 fantasy points. That still does not get me to over 20% of them.
I have 8% right now. I have the same stance as you, but time to light chat on fire. I disagree with you that Kuzma is any good. I don't think he's done anything of interest this year. I think he's the same player that he's always been, other than maybe tipping up his defensive rebounding rate. The Wizards stink. He's 27 years old. This is a guy with the same true shooting that he had last year, 55%. By the way, that's below league average. Same as last year, below league average. It's actually never been above league average, other than his rookie year, which also was 55%. Here's how crazy it is. 55, 55, 53, 55, 55. Those are all the true shootings for Kyle Kuzma. He's shooting 33% from three this year, has become a decent defensive rebounder. He's kind of nothing everywhere else. He's a negative plus minus player in EPM right now. He just looks good because he plays more and he doesn't have good players on his team.
But here's the one thing that he's done that I think we could tangibly say he's really improved. His playmaking is much better. His assist rate is like 50% higher than his career average.
I mean, it's 14% this year. It's 10% last year.
Yeah.
So, do I agree that that's like a marginal increase? Yes. Is that because he has the ball in his hands more now than he ever did before? Because he's not on the court with LeBron James or whoever the hell else was going to be on the Lakers for most of his run? Also, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, things like that matter, except for also he plays with shitty teammates and he is setting them up with assists. And I think he's also played better over the last month or so, or say 6 weeks, than he did at the start of the season. So I think Kyle Kuzma's made improvements, and he's somebody who there was a point where I never would have played Kuzma at all at 8,600. And now I'm underweight to the field on him, but he's in my player pool. And I think that I'm going to take a mea culpa and say that I shouldn't have made fun of Kyle Kuzma early in the season as much as I did.
You should have. You were right. Nothing's changed. He's the same guy he always is. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. It's Kyle Kuzma. I don't give a shit about him. I agree, though. I'm not all that interested in Kuzma. I'm a little lighter on Julius Randle. That's another guy in and around the same ownership as Kuzma right now. Flyers that I'm taking, I got a little bit of Bruce Brown. Don't really know what to do with that one. I don't have anybody else that's like ultra low owned that I'm taking shots on that I haven't already said. Luke Kennard is one of those guys. And part of the reason that I'm getting to Kennard in any way is 3,500 shooting guard, small forward. He just fits.
Yeah. So to me, it's just, is he going to play or not? Right. That's the big, the big thing when it comes to Luke Kennard, because he is currently listed as questionable. So.
And he's played 19, 28, 15, 22, 29 minutes over the past 5 games. So hopefully I kind of projected him in like the middle of all of that. Hopefully we get the 28 to 29 that we had before, but every once in a while he just shows up playing 15.
Yeah, it's the entire Clippers team. I think the minutes are almost impossible to predict. I mean, we saw Norman Powell. Norman Powell now is out essentially for the season. I don't think he's going to come back. If he does, maybe it's very late in the season or for the play-in game, broken foot. And you just make assumptions, right? There's no Norman Powell in there. Surely Nick Batum starting has to play more minutes. No, not at all. Nick Batum last game, he goes from playing 28 minutes to 19 and a half last game. The game before that, he played 23. The game before, 16. There's upside here. It's just so difficult to predict the minutes. So I kind of look at all of these guys as, Flyers. I'm going to have like 10% exposure to on a lot of them.
Fair. Anybody else you're looking at forward for today?
Let's see. Who are some of the more rostered players we haven't really talked about yet? All right, small forward. We covered most of those guys. So over at power forward, I think DeRozan is still one of the better players to pay up for on the slate. And there's a part of me that gets a little bit of sticker shock. Like when I saw the salary on DeMar DeRozan earlier today, I'm like, oh, I guess whatever. I'll play some DeRozan, but he's not going to be that important to me. But here's what's happened is all this value is opened up today. I'm still getting to a good amount of DeMar DeRozan because it's not hard to build lineups that have, say, like Jokic and DeRozan in them, even though both of them are fairly expensive. He's played really, really well. And even at this price tag, there's a ceiling and there's a really high floor. He has scored at least 47 fantasy points now in every game since, let's see, how far back? Yeah, since January 17th. So he's gone a month of at least scoring over 47 fantasy points and pretty regularly being over 50. We've seen upside of close to 70. So I still like getting to DeRozan here a lot. The price tag at first glance doesn't look good. But then you kind of look at some of his numbers this year when you're taking guys like Levine, Lonzo Ball off the court, and I think it's justified.
DeMar DeRozan is my fourth most exposed forward behind Patty Mills, Chris Middleton, and Jordan Nwora. I basically have the same amount of Nwora as I have DeMar DeRozan. So, 10-2, not something that I normally want to get to, but if he's playing 38 minutes a game in this spot, he's going to, massive usage bump with no Levine. I think it's totally reasonable. So we're on the same page there.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but just looking at it, I really don't want to play DeRozan in my head at this kind of salary because, by the way, somebody else, and I think you're going to agree with me more on DeRozan than the Kyle Kuzma one. When DeRozan was signed in the offseason, I was like, I don't really know how he fits into the Bulls. I don't really know what this team is doing right now. I thought it made sense just because the team was already capped out and they were able to add him. But DeRozan has played so much better than what my expectations were this season.
He's kind of playing exactly like I expected him to play, which was good now, but I expected the contract to be awful, and he's just not. I'm not super duper surprised by anything. All the stats look relatively similar, except for the fact that he kicked up his usage and has not gotten less efficient. And that's really just not something you're used to. When you go from a 26% usage guy to a 31% usage guy, but also still maintain 60% true shooting, that's really the leap that he took. And I don't even know how to justify something like that. That's just insanity at 32 years old. He's making me look dumb by not liking it. I don't like playing 34-year-old DeMar DeRozan, whatever the hell is going to be on 3 years, 84, whatever that ended up being. But I never expected this season, but I also expected him to be pretty good just in general.
The other thing, too, that's really helped the Bulls as a team is I just thought he couldn't shoot anymore. It had been so long since we saw him make threes at any kind of clip that mattered. And frankly, really poor shooter in recent years. Him shooting 34% compared to like 25% numbers he'd been shooting in recent years. So this is actually the last handful of seasons. DeMar DeRozan was 26% from 3, 31, 15, 25, 25. For him to be a 34% three-point shooter, it really makes a big difference in the floor spacing for the Chicago Bulls. Something else that I think has helped them is it just gives everybody else in that team, whether it's Vooch, who took a little bit while to get going, but now he's more involved right now. Zach LaVine is still having an excellent season. So they've really figured out how to make it work. And DeRozan, one of my favorite pay-up options today.
It could potentially happen today. If he makes 2 threes, that will equal the amount of made threes he had in 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined in 50 less attempts. Now, look, he doesn't shoot ever. He takes like 2 threes a game. So his 3-point rate is very, very, you can't just look at it, but the fact that they're going in is massive. I assume it's a spacing thing. They just have so much offense out on the floor every time that he's just getting slightly better looks than he did when it was all gummed up and no one had anywhere to go for the Spurs for a couple of years.
Yeah, but that's also something that makes it weird that his usage rate has gone up on this team relative to that Spurs team. That's also weird.
Yeah, I don't get it, but good for him. I just didn't expect that usage bump. Obviously, no one did. That would have been, to think that he was going to go from 26% usage last year for the Spurs to be 32 years old and jump to 31 on a team with Zach LaVine, an actual point guard, and Vooch. Never saw it coming at all.
Yeah, no, you look at that, and I know, Dejante Murray now is somebody who we all think of as an all-star because he is one and he's had a ridiculously good fantasy season. But like DeRozan was playing on the team last year with not that much talent around him. And now all of a sudden, maybe he's also a thing. Maybe he was checked out last year. That could potentially be a factor. That's actually somebody else who we didn't really talk about. I'm struggling to get up to Dejante Murray at his salary, and he's fairly popular on the slate. But $11K for Murray at 15% ownership on DK on FanDuel, he's 18% owned at 10.8. I really like Murray, but I think the price is about fair now.
Yeah, I have 5% right now. 11K is just a little bit healthier than I would like to go to. I have a little bit more Donovan Mitchell than him at 9,200. Not that I don't like. I mean, I've got Murray for 53, but not my cup of tea for today. We got a couple super chats that we need to touch on right now. I know I missed one a little bit further back. Justin Alberto said, Dosunmu or Kobe White. I don't know which site, so that's relevant, but Kobe White for me, just because Dosunmu is not as good of a per minute guy.
So it also depends on, for me on DK, it's Dosunmu. On FanDuel, Kobe White, I believe. Let me see the salary difference. Yeah, so over on FanDuel, no, actually, it's Dosunmu for me on both sites. Kobe White's maybe a little bit easier. Yeah, Kobe White's maybe a little bit easier to get to on FanDuel just because he's multi-position eligibility. But I've Dosunmu projected for more fantasy points, just $100 more.
Wow. I have a gigantic gap between White and Dosunmu with White out in front.
How many? I've Dosunmu also playing 6 more minutes than Kobe White.
How many minutes did you give Kobe White?
I have
34 and 40.
Yes.
Okay. I got 38, 36.
Yeah. So, Dosunmu, I think 36 is really light on Dosunmu. He's played 42 minutes in each of the last 2 games. Didn't play the game before. The game before that, he left early with a concussion. Then before that, 38 minutes, 37 minutes, 42 minutes. It's hard for me to expect that Dosunmu would play much less than that.
Javonte Green back, Derek Jones now in. I think both of those guys being back means that he doesn't have to go north of 40. And that's why I went to 38.
Yeah. I could see there's a case for Javonte Green and Derek Jones being back, but even so,
I can give him 4 more minutes and I'm still going to have Kobe White at more fantasy points.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed by Dosunmu lately, and I think he's earned the playing time that he's gotten as well. Then I think Troy Brown Jr. could see a cut in playing time because he really sucked last game.
Yeah, I have Troy Brown at 22. I gave Kobe White 36. That might be the biggest disparity, but I do like the rates on White with no Ball, no Caruso, no Levine out there. Starts to look a little bit like the guy that we used to expect to be out there for White. Interesting play. If we had time to do anything on this show, maybe we can make a little bet against each other, but we're just packed to the gills with stuff to do. Like I'm Real Forever super chat of rank them: DeRozan, Murray, Jokic. Once again, I don't know which site.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter what site. That's pretty easy for me. Jokic, DeRozan, then Murray.
I agree. And then finally, let's see, we had 2 more here. Jake Lindland, DK GPP. I assume what he's trying to say here is play Seth Curry and fade Mills. I would say play them both. I assume this is like a single lineup question though, but Patty Mills is one of my favorite players on the slate, so I can't just say that I don't want to play him. In fact, Patty Mills is my favorite player on this slate. So
let's see. What was his? I'm trying to find the super chat.
Play Seth Curry and fade Mills? ?
I have more exposure to Mills than Curry, but I also like Curry quite a bit. So same answer as you. I can't advocate for fading Patty Mills.
No, I don't think either of those guys have anything to do with each other either way. I think they both play north of 30 minutes. I think they help each other in a way. I don't have an issue having them both, but no, I'm not trying to fade Patty Mills. I think he's the best play on the slate on DraftKings. And then we had one more from our Cathelza: Drummond, Bryant, or Mitchell Robinson in a DK single entry GPP. Drummond. Hard to answer right now.
If I'm just basing it off of what my exposure is right now, it is Drummond.
Let's see. Drummond, Bryant, Mitchell Robinson, just to make sure. I'm like 99% sure my answer is Drummond as well, but I do want to double check that. Where did all my centers go? What is this sorted by?
I would really like to get that Nets starting lineup.
I have no idea where all of my centers went in this table. Grimes.
Not a center.
Okay. Well, now they're back. I don't know. I refreshed the table and there they are. So I do actually have a bit of Thomas Bryant, 2x the field, actually. His minutes were kind of weird this last time out. So I actually have him at 25 minutes. So I do have 17% Thomas Bryant, but I have significantly more Drummond. TBD on that one, though. We kind of just need to know the starting lineup. Speaking of starting lineups, I know people were curious about Marvin Bagley. Cunningham, Joseph, Bay, Grant, and Stewart. Oh, by the way, there was a second part to I don't remember who it was. Justin Alberto's question. Do you think Cade will play more minutes? Yes.
Play more minutes than what?
I assume the last game that he played.
Let me go through. So Cade Cunningham,
he played like 22 minutes or something like that.
He's also on a minutes restriction, like still on a minutes restriction. So I wouldn't play Cade Cunningham just because he's still fairly expensive and he's gonna play more than 22. Not enough for me to make him a strong option though.
I think I gave him 28. And I don't think that I have him at all.
And he's picking up ownership today as well. He's projected for double-digit ownership on FanDuel.
FanDuel, he's got a good price though, right?
But still, 6,600 though, if he's going to play mid to high 20s minutes, that's not all that appealing to me. And then just on DK 7,400, which is a really difficult price tag to get to in limited minutes.
Yeah, I don't have him at all here. Jim to Jim, thank you for the super chat. No question, but just the super chat in general. So nice to see it. Do you want to talk through centers now? We got 13 minutes to go. Actually, before we talk through centers, let's do this. Got to talk a little bit about our presenting sponsor. That would be Yahoo Fantasy Sports. Go to awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo. Get yourself 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. What you need to do, be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account using the link in the description, make a deposit, and play. That's all you got to do. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest. We will then reach out to you with an email and a coupon code. If you want to speed that up, email support@awesemo.com. You can also get a free $10 of site credit by using that link. You can get in the $50,000 Valentine's Day baller. And we've got DFS tools and projections specifically for Yahoo on the website. So make sure you're checking those things out. And if you want to sign up for NASCAR, Green Flag is the promo code. Awesemo Plus NASCAR annual package, I guess, for just $70. That gives you access to our driver projections, ownership, and top drivers tool. So if you are into NASCAR DFS, use the promo code Green Flag. That offer is valid through February 20th.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom is right. Oh, Hank the Tank, you're nice. I beg for likes. I beg for likes on a fantasy show because they're important for our job.
Yeah, it would. So, I mean, if people aren't aware of how the YouTube algorithm works, people see if something gets a like, people see our videos more. If people subscribe, they're more apt to see our videos, and then we just get more awareness, and therefore more people watch our shows, which is good for us because Josh and I, we have a bit of an ego to us. We like people to be watching the shows, but then also we get more sponsors, and then the sponsor willing to pay more money if more people watch. So we get paid more also. It's all encompassing. And then also if you guys, are liking and watching, then also we have more flexibility to give out free content, which is kind of benefits everybody.
I can't believe how many sponsor logos are in the UFC cage. They should just take all of those out and pay everybody $50 to fist fight each other. Why would we want anybody to try to promote anything and move forward?
Well, is that not what the UFC is paying guys? $50?
No, unless you listen to Jake Paul.
Yeah. Well, anyway, at center, pay up for Jokic if you can.
Yes, very much so. I am 2x the field on Jokic right now. Where are you? But I'm also more than double the field on Vooch, which is a comparable play to Jokic. As comparable as anything can be to Jokic at center.
Yeah, so I am uploading my lineup. So I don't know the exact number, but Jokic is off the top of my head, Jokic is in close to half my lineups today. There's a lot of value. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to get up to him, and I think just by far he's the player that you should have projected for the most fantasy points today. Yeah, go ahead. What came out?
Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford are available to make their Spurs debut, but won't play per pop.
Dude's a liar, though.
Yeah. Does that matter to you at all?
Not really. Because it's not like I want to get to those ancillary Spurs pieces anyway.
No, I don't have them already. I mean, I basically don't have anybody other than Murray, and that's at well below the field. Even if I'm giving a couple more minutes to Lonnie Walker, Josh Primo, Trey Jones, and McDermott, it's not like they're going to start showing up in anything. So,
and here's the other issue too. We've seen the situation as of late, right? These guys haven't been in, and what have we gotten from a fantasy standpoint? We get a lot of upside from Murray. We get, Jakob Poeltl is good games from time to time, but he's really priced up at this point. Devin Vassell has played well, but once again, we don't have Vassell at 4,000 anymore like he was before. Vassell is now 5,200 over on DK, and on FanDuel he is 5,800. Way different from when we were rostering at 3,700 or 4,000. So to me, I mean, you could just plug in what these guys did in those games without those players anyway, and it still doesn't really look all that great at these salaries.
I just realized that I've been sitting here like not making tweaks or changes to any of my projections as if we weren't 8 minutes or 9 minutes from lock. So I'm starting to do that while we're talking. How do you feel about Vooch? I don't know if you just said anything there, but he is my second most exposed center. So I'd love to get your thoughts.
So he is my fourth most right now. I have Jokic 1, Drummond 2, Portis 3, Vooch 4, which I assume you probably like all those players in some sort of order as well.
Hit me with that again. Jokic 1, Vooch 2.
Jokic 1, Drummond 2, Portis 3, Vooch 4. But really similar between Portis and Vooch. And if Drummond doesn't start, he's just going to plummet in my exposures, and that's going to have a trickle-down effect on all my exposures for every other player as well. But to me, like, I have Jokic 1, just tier of his own. Drummond 2, just because of the upside there and the low ownership as of now. Then Portis and Vooch are kind of interchangeable in the next tier for me.
Okay, so I'm a little bit lighter on Portis. I'm basically just with the field. Thomas Bryant / Zubats are obviously it's a different salary tier, but they are my Portis. They're guys that I'm taking a little bit of a stand on that are like relatively cheaper. Portis is just sort of in no man's land for me. Not that I don't like him. Like, obviously it looks a lot better with no Giannis.
You said you gave 25 minutes to Bryant?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't give him quite that many. He's a really difficult guy to project minutes for because everything looks like he should be playing more minutes. He's very far removed from that ACL injury at this point. He's played fairly well on a per minute basis when he's been on the court. He's looked healthy, but even with the team shorthanded without Porzingis, the minutes just haven't really been there. Last 3 games, 22, 20, 22 minutes. So it's not to say he doesn't have minutes upside. It's just hard for me to project him for it when it hasn't been there.
So I don't know if anybody's going to find this justifiable or not, but he played a 7-minute rotation to start their last game. Then he came in at basically the normal time, played 3 minutes and 47 seconds. They were +8. He was 2 of 2 from the field, 2 boards and 2 steals, came out and didn't play the rest of the second quarter. They went to Anthony Gill. I don't know if something happened to him. I haven't been able to confirm it or not. Like, I don't know why he didn't keep playing because they went on a 16-5 run when he was out there. Coaches don't normally take out guys that are playing really well in 16-5 runs. So I don't know what happened. Then he played his normal rotation to start the third, and he was playing the full normal rotation to close the fourth. He played 6 minutes and 14 seconds. The game was over. It was a blowout at that point in time. So he was at 22 minutes. He missed out on the extra 2 minutes. So he was at 24. And conceivably could have played 30 if he just played a normal second quarter rotation. It makes no sense to me why Anthony Gill came on the floor for that game. So I think the upside of Thomas Bryant's minutes are 28 to 30 today.
No, he played 22 last game.
Right. It should have been 24, though, if there's no blowout.
Okay.
He just loses the bottom 2 right out of the gate. He doesn't play the final 2 minutes. He's on the floor for the previous 6. But
Fair enough.
Missed 6 minutes at the end of the second quarter in the midst of him playing really well and in the midst where they built their biggest lead of the game. I just assumed he rolled his ankle or something.
You talked me into it. So I'm giving Thomas Bryant 2 more minutes. That'll give him a couple more fantasy points. I don't think that'll make him one of my most rostered centers or anything, but that'll probably get me to at least some sort of amount of exposure to him where he's in my player pool, maybe 10% or something.
Yeah, and for me, if he's, what is he, 8% owned or something like that?
Let's see. Thomas Bryant in our most recent run. I'll refresh to see if anything's changed. He is projected for 9% ownership on DK. On FanDuel, He is projected for 11%. He's a little easier to get to on FanDuel because he's power forward and center eligibility.
Yeah, so I have 18% right now. I'm basically 2x the field on him, which I'm happy to do because I do see that potential ceiling for minutes for him. That's a weird set of rotations to me. And it's Detroit, so it's Isaiah Stewart / Marvin Bagley probably on the opposite side. Not exactly shook up about that.
By the way, couple super chats to get to here before we get to lock here. From Jamie Moore, sorry if asked, Mills and Curry together okay? I have some lineups that have both of them, and I don't have an issue with that. I have so much Mills, and I'm getting to a decent clip of Seth Curry now. Once again, my lineups are going to have to change a lot based on what the Nets starting lineup is. If Seth Curry doesn't start or Andre Drummond doesn't start, that's going to change my lineups in a pretty big way. But do you have any issue with Mills and Curry together?
In 150 lineups, I don't have any with them together. And that is not because that's a rule I set. It just didn't show up. I would have no issue, but I actually just don't have them both in any lineup. Actually, that does not make any sense. Because Patty Mills has to be in way more lineups than this. So I don't think that this is adding correctly.
Either way,
I called him Patty Mills. Hold on. He's Patrick Mills in FC. I have 18 of my 150 with both guys. I knew that didn't make any sense. So 12% of my lineups have Mills plus Curry.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't make any rules to not allow them, but I didn't make any rules where I try to, limit them or boost them. If you have lineups of both of them in, cool. If you don't,
Absolutely.
Also cool. No issue.
I have that other question for you. Single entry. I guess it's single entry. DK 777, Murray and 4100, or Mills and Siakam. I don't like Siakam at all today.
I don't really particularly love Murray either, but I'm with you. I'd rather play Murray than Siakam, so the Murray combination. But with that said, I like Mills so much more than everybody else in that lineup. I guess Mills and Siakam just because I like Mills a lot.
Yeah, I think I'd go to Murray and let's see, who is my best 4,100 and under guy that's close to that mark? He gets kind of bleak. I end up down in the deep 3. Yeah, Corey Kispert. I don't know. Maybe it's Mills and Siakam.
Yeah, it's Mills and Siakam.
I'm not sure. I don't think I have a single share of Siakam, so I don't really want to advocate for that too hard.
But I have a lot of Mills.
Yeah, I have 0 Siakam today on DraftKings.
I'd have to
check.
How
you feeling? 2 minutes to go until lock, guys. Get those lineups in now if you haven't, and hit that like button if you haven't. I think we can still get to 1,000.
So I like this slate, but at the same time too, I feel like what my lineups are now are not what they're going to be in 30 minutes.
I hope that my lineups right now are what they are in 30 minutes.
I think
here's the question for you, because I think this is what we're talking about. What are you changing Andre Drummond's minutes to if he is named the starter?
If he's named the starter, I'll probably give him 26 minutes. If he comes off the bench, I'll probably go to 18.
I don't know if I change anything. I think that I probably they just have so many dudes that play that position that I don't necessarily know what starting even means for them.
Well, it means that there's a vote of confidence that he's going to get some sort of minutes and there's a floor there. If he comes off the bench, just all bets are off in terms of playing time, because we've seen it already as is with how Steve Nash runs his rotation. He's a wild man. I think he's asking a magic 8-ball who to play minutes and who to sub in. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it, but the Nets are going to play a very deep rotation today. Very deep, because that's what Steve Nash does. But I think that if Drummond starts, we could feel a little bit better about his playing time. He's such a good points per minute fantasy producer that if he starts, it just doesn't take that much for him to have a good game at 5,500 on DK, 6,000 on FanDuel.
Mills, Curry, Brown, Edwards, Drummond. Starting lineup at 7:00 on the dot. So we saw Blake get 21 minutes this last time out. He played that starting third rotation. They went to Day'Ron Sharp for the final 19 minutes of the game. So I think I'm going to hold at 22 minutes. Maybe especially because I already have 31% here. If I give him 24 or 26, I think I end up Jeremy Lamb out. I think I end up with 60%, the same way that I end up with Patty Mills and Jrue Holiday and Quentin Grimes. And I don't think he's in the same boat because I don't necessarily know how many minutes he's going to play, considering Day'Ron Sharp is out there, LaMarcus Aldridge is out there, James Johnson. Who else are we missing here from a bigs? Blake Griffin. Like, they are not short on other dudes that can play center. I don't love the minutes upside. It's certainly there, though. I get wanting to take that flyer because if he plays 28 minutes, I'm going to regret it.
So I dialed back his minutes. I ran a set of lineups where I gave him the 26 minutes. He just ends up in everything. So I dialed that back a little because I'm not comfortable with the amount I was getting to him. 24 minutes, I end up with 30% Drummond.
Fox, Holiday, Barnes, Harkless, Sabonis.
It feels like not great floor spacing.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Fox, Holiday, Barnes, Sabonis, Holmes.
Yeah. Well, what is Harkless shooting from 3 this year? Maybe Harkless is better shooter than I'm giving him credit for.
We just got another super chat. Drummond or Jokic? FanDuel cash.
Jokic.
Yeah, it has to be. There's too much ambiguity in Drummond there. I also don't know his FanDuel price off the top of my head.
6,000.
So if it's okay, I was gonna say if it's like 3,500 because of the trade or something, then by all means, yeah, I would rather go to Jokic in that case. Look, he's really good. I've got him projected really well too. 1.52 FanDuel points per minute in this spot. The minutes are a gigantic question mark.
How many more fantasy points do you have Jokic for compared to your second highest projected player on the slate?
It's pretty close. Do you want DraftKings or FanDuel?
Oh, either one.
DK, Jokic at, well, it's not as close as I thought. 9.
Yeah, I have him. I have Derozan as my second highest projected player, and I have Jokic projected for 13 more fantasy points.
I basically have Vooch and Derozan tied.
Yeah.
62,
I have them
62 to 53.
I have them very close, but DeRozan for slightly more fantasy points than Vooch. Either way, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Jokic is just head and shoulders above everybody else from a raw points perspective for me. And there's enough value where it's not difficult to get to him. And I know a lot of people will look at this kind of slate and they'll look at some recent Jokic's games and they'll be like, oh, well, look, it's not like Jokic has been crushing it lately. He's been, pretty close to 60 fantasy points over the last couple of weeks. But I'm curious to see what it is you're laughing at. But that aside, it's 60 fantasy points from Jokic is different on this slate at 12-2 on DK than it is in a lot of other slates because there's so much value that the raw points matter at top.
I got Jokic at 62. Vooch, DeRozan, and Murray are in the low 50s. Those are the only guys over 50. So, I only have 3 guys even sniffing the 50s, at which point Jokic is then 14 points ahead of Julius Randle. Pop said Richardson and Langford are available but won't play. Quote, I don't even know their names yet.
Oh, they're playing.
Darren Unger, by the way, FanDuel. Seth Curry and Jokic or Drummond and Murray? It's got to be Curry and Jokic, right?
That's Curry and Jokic.
Yeah. Yeah. Dejante 10-8 there, 5,300 for Curry on FanDuel. So we're on the same page there. That's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious from Pop.
You know what? Watch him start those guys now.
Oh my God! Who would you be surprised? He doesn't give a shit about anybody else.
He's a sneaky bitch, that Greg Popovich.
He certainly is. All right, so Detroit, Washington is the first game up. Shocking here. There's the message from Ship My Money. Classic message from him at Lock. Wizards game is going to go nuts because I ran out of time, so I just skipped it. Normally when he does this, he ends up locking too many players and winning $100,000. So good luck to ship my money on that bad boy. Let's check out some of the ownership, I guess.
Knicks starting lineup, by the way: Walker, Grimes, Fournier, Randall, Robinson. So they are sticking with Grimes starting lineup. That was expected, except you never know with some of these coaches.
Very, very true. All right. Ownership. Dismiss players not populated yet. All righty. I will go download the CSV unless you're going to do that faster than me.
No, I am. I'm all set right now.
All right. Well, I will download the CSV and give the ownership for the contest that you and I had been talking about, the $4 600 bajillion person contest.
Yeah, it is.
Actually,
let's see how many.
No ownership posted yet. Oh, I didn't refresh the page. That makes sense. I was like, I know that it's normally in this.
And we've got the green check marks on the Nets, and as everybody knows, the green check marks guarantee somebody's going to play well.
Well, for right now, I am not able to access the ownership, but I guess we need another minute or two.
It hasn't officially locked yet. You need to wait until there's stats sometimes, or at least until they show ownership.
6.4% on Howell Neto. That I can tell you.
That's random.
3% on Cunningham. Another lineup with Neto. Another lineup with Neto. 20 on Kuzma. 4 on Ish. I think that's my lineup.
10 for Kispert, 5 for KCP. Thomas Bryant ended up coming in just 5% ownership. I don't know if you read his name before.
I did not, but I like it. Oh, here's the export to lineups. Got it. Done. I was downloading my personal CSV, not thinking that I needed to switch to the actual contest. It's like, oh, I wonder where that shit is. Moron. God, I'm such a moron. All right, here we go. Kuzma 19.5 is the highest owned player in this game by miles. Next closest guy didn't even get to 10 unless you round up. That's Kispert. Do you know who the third most owned player in this game is?
ACP?
He's 7th.
Let me look. All right, which team is he on, or is that too much of a hint? Oh, it's Jeremy Grant.
There's 2 of them, man. Like, what kind of information do you want here?
Jeremy Grant.
5th.
Denny?
9th.
We already said
shut up. First and foremost, you're wrong. So
yeah, I don't know.
Marvin Bagley III.
That is actually stunning to me.
6.8% ownership, third highest in this game, ahead of everyone except for Kyle Kuzma and Corey Kispert.
How many minutes did you get? I have, let's see.
I have the backup center run.
I have one lineup with Bagley in it. It's not hard to envision a scenario where there's some upside in Bagley, but I gave him 18 minutes.
I gave him 19 minutes. Like, if he plays backup center and plays a little bit alongside Isaiah Stewart, am I surprised by that? No. At 3,300, is that decent? Sure. Do I want him to be the third most owned guy in this game? Yes.
I mean, ideally, I would like Bradley Beal to be one of the higher owned players in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that the entire field blocked guys that weren't playing. If we're talking about it like that, Detroit is the team I have the least amount of exposure to. I have 3 lineups with Jeremy Grant and no other Pistons.
I think the Pelicans are my lowest owned team today.
I've got 9% Joe Val. Otherwise, I would have been right there with you, but he's just a guy that I get to.
You know who? No, I have some exposure to Donovan Mitchell.
Golden State is my second lowest. They're actually tied with Detroit. 3 lineups of Klay Thompson and no one else.
What about Houston? I'm getting I have nothing from Houston.
I always get Houston. So let me scroll up. Okay, so I have more than the field on a couple of these guys, but Jalen Green 7, Şengün 5, Tate 3, Gordon 1. So not exactly like a staggering amount of ownership here. Who's your most exposed team? Brooklyn?
Well, my most exposed team.
Brooklyn or Milwaukee, I'm guessing. Potentially
Milwaukee.
Chicago.
It's Milwaukee.
It's Brooklyn for me by 1% over Milwaukee, and then a pretty big gap before I get to Chicago.
Milwaukee 1, Brooklyn 2, Chicago 3.
No way we have the same fourth. That much I know.
Let's see. I don't even. Who is
Impossible
fourth for me? Well, fourth for me is the Knicks, but that's going to be weighted towards just having Quentin Grimes. So then fifth, then it's OKC for me.
It's the Clippers for me at 4, and the Knicks are 5th. 65 of the 73% of ownership I have is going to Quentin Grimes, so it's not exactly the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers are there for me after that, though, because I have exposure to Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, Zubats, Luke Kennard. It's just a bunch of guys I have around 10% exposure. So,
yeah, same. What did you get from Oklahoma City? Because I basically don't have them other than 8% Ty Jerome.
Yeah, I do like Ty Jerome quite a bit today. I did get to some Giddey, and here's why. They had said that they were going to cap Giddey at 30 minutes for the foreseeable future. And then he played 33 minutes last game. That makes me think there's a little more playing time upside in Josh Giddey than I'd previously thought there was going to be. I think that 30-minute thing might be going out the window here. So Josh Giddey is somebody who ended up getting exposure to. I gave
him 32 minutes, by the way, and still didn't get there.
Yeah, I gave him 34. He played 33 last game. And there's no Lou Dort.
It's fair.
Trey Mann, I have some exposure to. I mean, a lot of it's weighted towards Ty Jerome, though.
We got a couple questions in Discord that I want to hit you with. DK single entry. I know the chances are a lot lower, but it's worked out twice holding Whiteside in my lineup, hoping Gobert sits. If he doesn't, who would be your favorite pivot be? I just wouldn't do that.
Let's see. What was can you read that question to me one more time?
Who would your favorite pivot be if you're putting Whiteside in your lineup and with the hope that Gobert doesn't sit, or the hope that Gobert sits? What would you pivot to if Gobert plays?
All right, let me.
I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, so let's look at the pricing. No, just play in the game here. So we have Whiteside is 5,900.
Yeah.
All right, but then we also have to consider the time.
Orlando, Denver. It's got to be someone from Orlando, right? It's got to be like Wendell Carter Jr. or something.
I think
that's an extra $1,000.
Yeah, so that's not even doable. I mean, I would say Bama, but he's 1,200 less expensive.
Yeah, obviously it's no one on Denver. Obviously, like Şengün is 4,700. That's not really what you're looking for.
The guy I've projected the highest after that would be Mo Bamba, but you're sacrificing $1,200.
Yeah, I don't like the way that's set up. Raptors lineup as usual, same as it normally is. Yeah, I just I don't think that Whiteside ends up looking like a spectacular play if Gobert ends up out. So wouldn't be something I would want to hold. Like if as a Buki were out and we knew that Whiteside had to play like 32 minutes, very different discussion. And then Richie asked us, with Drummond starting, are you going over the field or under the field? Hard for me to gauge on the new team. I'm not touching anything. I'm going with 30% ownership right now, and I don't know where the field is going to come in.
Yeah, I have no clue what to make of him.
No, I'm pretty happy having 30%. If he ends up wild chalk, cool. If he ends up right around that, for me, great. I just don't have a great feel. Rudy Gobert, game time decision. Eric Paschall will play.
Also, we don't have the OKC starting lineup yet. So I have to say that if Ty Jerome doesn't start, that's going to change my lineups.
Sure. I don't think that I gave Ty Jerome nearly enough minutes, but I don't trust this team at all from a minutes perspective.
The game locks in 15 minutes and we don't know the starters yet.
We should be getting it like right now, no?
You would hope so.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything as of yet.
Nope. I looked. There's no confirmed starting lineup and nothing the news gods posted in Discord yet. Not because of any of his doing. The team just hasn't given us the starters yet.
How many minutes have you projected Lindy Waters for?
Lindy Waters, I do not have in the rotation.
Yeah, me neither. I've never seen that name before. It just happened to be someone that played 2 days ago. I don't know what a Lindy Waters is.
4 minutes. He had 1 rebound, no other stats. He did play the game before us. So he played 1 minute in garbage time.
Yes, he did. Way to go, Lindy.
Oh, we got news. Monty Morris and Zeke Naji both out. That's going to matter.
Okay. Does it?
Yeah, because I was assuming Morris was in, and
I mean, me too. But does it matter?
Highland and Campazzo both have utility now.
Yeah, I mean, you get Campazzo up to what, like 24 minutes, Bones around 24.
But the key also is I think it's a sliding scale. At least from what we saw last game, they both played 24. But I think there's potential for Highland plays while he plays 26, Campazzo plays 22, or vice versa. So I think those are guys who I had 0% exposure to both of them, and now I get to some of both of them.
Yeah, I guess that makes Bones a little bit more interesting, at least more interesting than Monty Moore or than Facundo Campazzo. Do I have any bit of this game? I do have a lineup with Monty Morrison, so at the very least, I want to get off of that.
This OKC line, I'm not coming out to drive me crazy. This is massively important for this slate.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope that we don't get it until 7:29 because I'm not going to make any changes.
Well, but if I'm assuming Ty Jerome is starting right now. You seem to be assuming not. But if he starts, you're going to want him.
I have 8%.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to not go too crazy on a 15-point dog Oklahoma City team that might just play every other guy they have today. I just want to get that one Morris lineup just straight change to something else. So I don't forget, just in case I do forget later. That ain't it. Whatever. We'll figure it out later then. Yeah, I didn't expect Monty Morris to be out. I thought he was for sure going to be back today.
As did I.
No sign of that Oklahoma City lineup yet.
Nope. Game starts in 12 minutes.
How is that possible? How is that possible? Thanks, Jordan. Wait, that wasn't even up on my screen yet when you said that. That's what's really crazy. You're clairvoyant. It also creeps me out how you whispered that in my ear. Rob Sorensen says, not a question, just a big thanks for the Yahoo single game big baller tip. Made the first place group last night. Rob, congratulations. You shared that with 5,000 of your friends, I believe.
By the way, guys, just because FanDuel has posted a starting lineup does not mean anything.
No.
I know we like to joke about the green check marks, but it's a poor practice to build lineups based on that. All right, let me look.
I would never even look at FanDuel to find out a lineup.
It comes at part of, 90% of this is trolling Eric. Fair. And that's not something you'd be aware of, but really, the green check marks have really upset Eric. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to do a Twitter search to see if we've got an OKC starting lineup anywhere. And if anything's gone overlooked. Lou Dort being out is a very big deal. And we don't know who's starting in place of him.
I don't see it anywhere. Yeah, I don't see it anywhere. No sign of it in any of my columns or in a search.
Well,
could you imagine thinking it's out on FanDuel, but no one posted it to Twitter in the entire world?
Yeah, just they know FanDuel and their terrible operation. They can't even respond to emails at FanDuel, but they're going to figure out how to get starting lineups before they come out. Please,
right? We've had the same viewing screen on FanDuel for basically 6 years.
Yeah. No, they made that change up to the app that's terrible and impossible to navigate, though.
That's the biggest problem in DFS right now. You would think they'd want to keep us in the app as much as possible, and both FanDuel and DraftKings just have god-awful user experiences. DraftKings is slowly getting better. It's still terrible. The amount of information that should just be able to be there that you can sort through. It's just data. You don't. It just drives me nuts.
The FanDuel one's the nut low, though.
It is.
Let's see. So,
yeah, still no sign of it.
I'm really looking through Twitter, just searching for anything I could find.
Saddiq Bey with 8 points out of the first 10 for the Pistons. Normally, when he does that, he finishes with 8 points.
Here's what's going to happen too. If I reduce the amount of Ty Jerome I have, which I'm kind of close to doing because I'm nervous, then I'm going to get to a lot more Quentin Grimes.
He's also going to start the moment you do that too.
I know, and then I have to switch, and then I'm going to have to switch back.
I'm really intrigued by this Denver piece now. It's not going to really I don't know what I want to do with it. I don't know what the actionable item is right now. It's probably something that I should be changing now to lower Grimes and get to more Highland. Like Bones is 3,900 on DraftKings. I think that makes him a little bit more interesting. I don't care too much about Facundo Campazzo, but I guess I probably should.
I mean, Campazzo 2 games ago got the bulk of the minutes.
Right.
The 2 games ago, Bones Highland starts and plays less minutes than he normally does.
Obviously.
And Campazzo played 30.
He's bad too.
Campazzo or Highland?
Campazzo.
Oh, because I kind of like Highland. It's just, he's young and inconsistent.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's 3 years away from being a year away. Although he's actually older than I thought he was.
Highland?
He's 21 and a half.
Still youngish.
Yeah, but I just assumed that he was 19, like every other youth. All right. Nothing really interesting coming in right now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to knock them in. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Let's see what else we got. How is there no lineup? This makes no sense. Is the game not at 7:30?
Well, the game is at 7. The game is at 7:30, and I'll promise you, I'm not dealing with this particularly well, Josh. I'm not doing well with this. Here's what I have. Because it's a point when you're 5 minutes a game away from a game locking, there's no way to just set minutes. So I'm just kind of eyeballing and be like, okay, I'm going to get the starting lineup, and I'm just going to be like, hey, whoever's starting, few more fantasy points for you, few less fantasy points from Ty Jerome or whatever. But that's not even, really an option right now.
So who is your second option for that? I would say just start running a crunch for whatever you think the non-Ty Jerome option is.
But I don't really want to play Aaron Wiggins if he's starting.
Okay, well then, what do you want me to do here?
I want you to tell me everything's going to be okay. That's all I want.
Everything's going to be okay. It's going to end up being much ado about nothing.
This is going to ruin me. All right. I'm getting to more Ty Jerome than I'm comfortable with. I'm taking some of exposure away from him. I'm going to up Quentin Grimes. So I wasn't super thrilled about playing a ton of Grimes. Now I'm just going to end up with 70% Grimes because I'm going to take away Ty Jerome, and I'll get to a little more.
Just have the CSV ready to update at 7:29.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's really all you can do right now. Make your assumption. Make the alternate assumption. If it doesn't happen, leave what you have. If it does, fire away.
And then they're going to do something stupid that I didn't predict.
Well, you can only have so many options here.
Nah. All right. So here we go. We're uploading.
I think it's really weird, though. It makes very little sense. Not even a person in the... Well, it's an Oklahoma City game, so maybe there's no one in the arena.
And it's
no one's even taking a picture of a screen or nothing. Nothing's around.
All right. Let's see what happens when I've updated this. So I'm still getting to a good clip of Ty Jerome. Not as much as I was. Quentin Grimes, though. So Quentin Grimes is just my most rostered player now, which I did not. Well, Quentin Grimes and Jordan Nwora.
Bill W with the message, drop from Drummond to Bamba, Randall to DeRozan. So 2v2, Bamba and DeRozan or Drummond and Randall? It feels like Drummond and...
I still like Drummond as a tournament play. As much as we talked about not knowing what his playing time is going to look like in the wide range of outcomes, that's not a bad thing for tournaments. So, I mean, Drummond is still somebody I like. He's in 30% of my lineups right now. I like Drummond. Don't screw me, Quentin Grimes. Just play okay.
Yeah, I don't think that Aaron Wiggins signing a 4-year, $6.4 million deal means that he has to do anything for the Thunder. Just FYI, for anybody in chat that thinks now that they're paying him $1 million a year, they give a shit with, let's see, a non-guaranteed season next year and the following year and a club and a team option. That is barely a contract.
Yeah, they would be perfectly fine with just eating that if it doesn't go well.
Yeah, there is not a single piece of like nothing. They just converted him from a two-way. There's no money outside of this season guaranteed. So that contract is meaningless. Doesn't mean he's not starting tonight or not, but like Bagley's checking in right now. Just means that contract is not worth a shit to anyone at all.
By the way,
they didn't give him like $20 million for this year just to get to the salary floor.
I can't find the starting lineup just does not exist anywhere, and we are 3 minutes away.
When's the last time we went to a lock without a starting lineup? Ever? I can't picture it.
I mean, I feel like it happens a decent amount towards the end of the season with teams nobody gives a shit about, and just everybody's given up on the Thunder early this year. Do they not have reporters? Is that a possibility? There's 0 people who cover the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I mean, I assume that's not like they're shipping anybody to New York for this bad boy. Thunder will start Giddey, Mann, Wiggins, Baisley, Roby.
All right. Now I could. Let's see.
There it is.
All right. So, taking away some Ty Jerome minutes.
Giddey, Mann, Wiggins, Baisley, Roby for those that are looking for the OKC lineup.
I'm going to get to so much
spare.
I'm going to get to so much Quentin Grimes now, and I'm not thrilled about it, but it is what it is.
To the people that keep saying that the lineup has been out, congratulations, you are incorrect.
Yeah, it was not out.
No, it's 2022. When the information is available, that shit is everywhere. It's not like we needed to get it by Raven. What are we talking about here?
I wonder why it didn't come out though. Like that, it is weird.
I mean, they probably just forgot they were on the slate. Pelicans will start Graham, McCollum, Ingram, Jones, and Valanciunas. And we have 2 more minutes to go. So, 1, thank you guys for being here. I hope you enjoyed this show. I know I have. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't there. Brandon, I hate you. Like I'm the only one that didn't see it and not the entire DFS industry.
Yeah, there's not a single person. There's not a single person that reported it.
No. Nor did any of the news sites that normally report these things report it.
Nobody had it.
It was literally nowhere. It's insane. It's truly insane. Well, I'm happy that I only have 8% Ty Jerome right now. I'm happy to continue to have that 8% as well.
Yeah, I have more than that, except he was somebody who I had a lot of, and I don't now. He is, and also, let me refresh. What was the ownership projection that we had on him? So Ty Jerome.
22 or something?
All right. So I was going to be underweight to Ty Jerome, and now he's now projected for 20% on DK and 12% on FanDuel. So I am underweight to him on DK, and that was not going to be the case 5 minutes ago.
Well, time to go watch this thrilling Oklahoma City Thunder game because this show is over. Thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you to Yahoo for being the sponsor. Awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo will get you the goods. Tomorrow's Tuesday, and we're back doing it again. But short week this week, done on Thursday before the All-Star break, and we could all get a couple extra Z's. Thanks for being here, everybody. Good luck tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow.